All right. Looks like we are live, and I am joined today by my buddy Danesh. And Danesh, I want to say we've actually never spoken before, but the thing is I've been following your channel for a little while. You have such an approachable manner about you that you just kind of feel like I felt like when I reached out to you for the first time, I'm like, this is already my buddy, you know? So
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm glad.
I
I hope a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I think you have a good rapport with people. And so that's what I noticed. So I guess where we should start is the first time that you and I got acquainted, which we didn't really. This is the first time that we're actually speaking, but
Yeah.
I was reaching out to you from Wayne's Instagram as part of my job during the Ridgeland trial was trying to get support for that. And so I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, do you want more information about this?" And then with no prompting from me, you created this amazing video, and
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna link that down below in the show description. But I just want to start with a thank you first of all, and then and tell me about how you put that together because that's one of the best explainers that we had throughout the entire trial.
Oh wow. Jeez. Oh my God. Thank you. Well, I mean, honestly, y'all made it really easy for me because y'all gave me a lot of B-roll. But yeah, actually, so when you first messaged me, you messaged me about the beagles and how they're experimented on and the trial, and I didn't really know much about it, to be honest.
Mhm.
And then I just used the documents that you gave me, and you had a bunch of links, and I just started reading like the articles that you sent. I learned about Wayne, and the more I learned about it, the more I was like, damn, I need to make a whole ass video because this is
Mhm.
really, um, this is really, what's the word? I don't want to say relevant because
Disturbing.
that's like a lame word, but disturbing, yeah. And it's there's I feel like there's very few occasions as vegans where we get to talk about something where we're so sure that like I know you don't want to hear about veganism, but you're gonna care about this. Like trust me, And it's like
Yeah.
dog cruelty, right? Like who doesn't care about what happens to dogs? And so I thought that was just like a really good theme to touch on, like what's going on to dogs, people not even realizing what happens to dogs, and then the really seamless transition into veganism as well, right? Which it is
Right.
all the same thing, but people wouldn't immediately associate you know dog experimentation with veganism because everyone's be like, oh, of course everyone's against dog experimentation. It's like, yeah, well, like, everyone's against killing all kinds of animals, right? But
Right.
um, yeah, so that's how I kind of got drawn into it, and then yeah, I just started doing some researching. I did the scripting. Y'all had given me the B-roll. So honestly, man, the video kind of wrote itself. The video kind of wrote itself. Y'all gave me some good points to use as well, and a lot of good research to pull from. And y'all had everything cited too. So it honestly was y'all did me the favor, honestly.
Well, yeah, it seemed like you got inspired by it and you just took it and ran with it. And yeah, and I just want to say too, because, you know, my job was made so easy by people like you because all I had to do was just reach out and then you just created that video. It took, like I said, it took no prompting. And then weeks later, you put out this great video. You had really well edited it and you had also just broken it down and explained it so well. And I mean, that's really indicative of the work that you do and why I already knew who you were because I've been following your
Thank you.
channel since I think pretty much since the beginning, because I remember when you were that vocal vegan on YouTube, and you maybe had like 100 followers or something, and
Okay.
now you're Danesh. You've
Yes.
rebranded, and you've got a
Yes.
couple thousand, I think, right now.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So you've
Wow.
sort
So you're an
of,
OG.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm one of those people who consume a lot of vegan content on
Yeah.
YouTube because I have no life, so I.
Yeah. Nah, but I mean, hey, it's good content to consume, but
Yeah. Well, and I also learn from you, so I mean, one of the things that you do really well that I've sort of mentioned already is that you relate to people really well. You're obviously very bright, but you also just break things down in a way that makes it seem like, I'm like you, I feel like you
yeah.
connect with people really well. I know that's got to be deliberate, but it's also seems like it's your personality. But just like, can you tell me how you approach a lot of this content that you make?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like it is deliberate, but it also is not deliberate in the sense that I feel like that's always how I've tried to explain things in my life. And so when I make a video about it, I try to, I feel like I try to invest a little bit more in the way that I present it, especially when it's a topic like veganism, where
Mhm.
you essentially want to tell people that this isn't some crazy thing, right? This is something that I promise you we're going to agree on like everything, right? Like you care about the environment, right? And you don't, and I know you're going to tell me you hate factory farming, and you don't obviously you don't want cancer, you don't want all these horrible diseases that can happen to you because these are all things that interested me. These are all things that interested me before when I started looking into plant based eating. When I first started eating a plant based diet, it was because it was for health and environmental reasons. And so then I just kind of started thinking about how I could, or actually, the real way that it started was a lot of the conversations I would have with my friends. I was always trying to talk to them, and they're people that I already shared a lot with, similar backgrounds, similar jobs. And so I feel like because we had a lot of the same stuff to pull from, I could connect on a lot of those different levels. And then, yeah, and so I just kind of ran with that. And I felt like that would be the most convincing way to get someone to listen about veganism. And the way that I've always tried to approach veganism is I always try to talk about it in a way that would have resonated with me and would have convinced me to go vegan when
Right.
I was just learning about it. And I think the biggest reason too is because before I went vegan, you'll hear me talk about this in my other videos. I always thought vegans were weird, because that's how they're
Mhm.
sold. They're these different people, and I've said this in videos before, like um, they just come off they were presented to me, or by the media they were presented as these people that I just so did not identify with, and I thought, oh, like there are these people that they're out there protesting, and I'm, I cringe to say this today, but it's like, man, you guys should just get a job or whatever, or need to like that. I mean, like I've changed a lot, right? But that's the mentality that I had, and I was like, I'm this guy who I want to, study and get this big job, get this fancy job or whatever. And then seeing people like do even any kind of disruptive protest. Honestly, I was like, no, why are you bothering everybody? Like, stop doing that. But the point was, is like once I started listening to what these people had to say, and challenging a lot of the preconceived notions I had, then it started making a lot more sense. And so if it was able to convince me, then I thought, okay, well, damn, like what if I wish my friends had told me this? Like, what the hell? Why hasn't anybody told me this? So that's what I want to be, that kind of person for not just like my friends. Oh, and it was also because none of my friends wanted to listen. Like, they didn't care about anything I had to say. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to like start talking about it online, and then maybe some people will listen to me. Maybe I can reach many more people. And so that was kind of how it all worked out. And that's why I try to make my message as relatable as possible, and just try like to hit the lowest common denominator, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, I do the same thing. Like I always think back to like before I was vegan, like how could I convince myself? And that's really like the best data point that we have, right? It's not going to resonate with everybody, but yeah,
Yeah.
I try to think about mini me's out there, like who are just
Yeah.
waiting because I just really wasn't told, and I
Same.
was hungry for information. Um, so why don't we do a little like I almost hate to do this because I feel like you've probably answered this question a billion times, but
I'm
let's
ready.
enter a
Hit me.
time machine, go back in time and just like give me your origin story.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, like for veganism or in general, like you want to hear
Well,
about the whole,
well, I want to hear
like
about
you want to hear how
Lady
my parents
Baynesh
met,
too.
you know?
Yeah, your
Uh,
conception, right?
exactly.
No, no.
But
But yeah, well, let's start with veganism and activism and how you started your channel, and then let's even rewind further, and then let's like
yes.
get into who you are.
Yeah. So I think so yeah, I mean, for me, the going vegan was I watched the Game Changers on. Or actually, okay,
Wow.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna take a couple steps back even further. So
Yeah, yeah.
I had just it's relevant, I promise. So I had just moved to Mexico City as part of this big life change that I was making. Like I mentioned before, I was someone who really focused on school, really focused on getting the best job. That was what my whole world was. It was just like corporate life, getting the best kind of job you could get. And then I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to move to Mexico and do an international project, or what are they called? Yeah, international project, whatever.
Hmm.
And so I had just gotten to Mexico. I was 25, and I remember that it was December, and I am someone who takes the New Year's really seriously, and also my birthday's in December, so it all kind of like overlaps. And I thought, okay, this is a great time to incorporate positive changes in my life, or change things, like start doing laundry more than once a month kind of thing. I'm just kidding. I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
gross. Bed sheets though, do need to
Patch.
wash those more frequently. But anyways,
Just
yeah.
I want to pop in with that because I saw this Onion headline one time that was like nation's men announce plans to wash bed sheets by like by next quarter or something. So
Literally, it's
true. Like
yeah, literally. It's like I could wait a
we
couple of days.
we're bad about that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but always trying to do
So
better.
anyway,
Maybe this is the year. I'm just kidding.
maybe this is the
People are gonna
year.
think I'm nasty. I promise I wash them frequently now. Anyways, you'll have to take my word for it. But anyways,
It's
so
okay. You look clean on the camera right
thank
now,
you, and that's
so
all that
that's good. Yeah,
matters.
yeah, yeah.
I just started using OxyClean for my white clothing, so see, I'm
Oh,
really
oh, good.
incorporating
Oh, good.
positive changes. Yeah, it's big.
Cool. Good.
But yeah. So I watched the Game Change. So yeah, I sat down and watched this documentary called The Game Changers, and it was just this
Yeah.
guy with vegetables, like the thumbnail. I'm like so used to like the thumbnail. Nah, but the the video preview was this guy with vegetables, and I was like, oh, it's December. It's gonna be the new year. I can definitely be reminded to eat more vegetables. So I watched the Game Changers. It wasn't about vegetables, as everybody here watching probably knows. It's like a hardcore vegan cell, or plant based eating cell. And I
Hmm.
thought, damn, really? Like you're telling me you can eat oh sorry, you're telling me fish and chicken are bad for you? Like those are the healthy meats. What are you talking about? And I just didn't I just, it was my first time hearing any of that stuff, and I was like that can't be real. And I was someone who really really cared about health and nutrition and fitness, and I was always thinking about that stuff and always wanting to improve and eat better. And so I thought, all right, beginning of the year, I'm gonna eat vegan. I'm gonna go vegan.
Hmm.
But then I thought, wait, I can't go vegan. Like, what if I travel and I want to eat tacos and I want to enjoy the cuisine? You know what I mean? So, okay, I'm just going to be
Yeah. Sure.
vegan on the weekdays. So, coming back from
Interesting.
the holiday vacation or whatever, I came back to Mexico. And I remember the first night I had my last non-vegan meal ever. I
Hmm.
didn't know that at the time, but I had it. And then the next morning, I was like, all right, I'm vegan today. So I remember I went out, like, just got like a smoothie bowl for breakfast. I remember that one, but I don't remember what I even had for lunch or dinner. But yeah, and then I felt really really good for Monday through Friday. I felt really really good, and I thought, oh damn, that okay, maybe like I actually. Oh, and I was also planning on the weekends. I don't know if I said that explicitly, but the weekends I was like, I'll take weekends off. But I was feeling so
Hmm.
good, so I was like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna keep up with the plant based eating or the veganism. And I
Yeah.
thought, like, man, why didn't these vegans tell me about this earlier? Like, oh, I don't care about the animals, but that my health, like, come on. But it was like that ego. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was literally that. It was like thinking about myself in that at that time. And then yeah, and then I just kind of stuck with it, and I stuck with it, and I just kept feeling really really good. And then COVID happened, and I moved back to in with my parents during COVID. My mom had also watched Game Changers. I was like, Mom, you have to watch this documentary.
Hmm.
And she
Hmm.
would text me back. She's like, I'm never eating meat again. And
Nice.
so we were both separately doing it. And then when we both reunited, like in April because of COVID, then we both weren't very good, I feel like, at figuring out what to be eating. Like, I think she was just eating hummus for months, which I was like, oh, that's not good. I'm glad. I'm glad you didn't keep doing that because you were gonna miss out on some nutrients. And then I don't know. I feel like I was just struggling to come up with different recipes. But the point is we got back together for COVID, and we just started cooking and making tons of food together. And we both got really excited about plant based eating. Man, I was making the best breakfast. I was making chickpea flour pancakes, like smoothie bowls, like tofu
Nice.
scrambles. I'm still not at that level. Like I was the best cook I've ever been during COVID because I cooked every single day. And who cares? You had like an hour. You weren't going anywhere, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and then during the quarantine, I watched Cowspiracy, and I was like, damn, like that's crazy. Like, are you telling
Yeah.
me it's that bad for the environment? And that was another reason to go vegan. I thought, okay, like I gotta start telling my friends about this. Like, come on, y'all. Like, y'all care about the environment, right? Like, we're all, recycle, reuse, or reduce, reuse, recycle. Come on, y'all. Like, eat some beans. And then it was about like a couple months, like I think it was June or July. I stumbled upon an Earthling Ed video on YouTube. I got served uh, a YouTube video as well, so I can relate. I was just binging that YouTube content,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it hit me. And then and I just watched a speech, and at one point he says, um, you know, a meal lasts 5 minutes. We all get one chance at life, and we take theirs from them, from the animals, for like
Yeah.
a 5 minute meal that is their entire existence, which we
Right.
forget about as soon as we put it down. And I was like, fuck.
Fuck.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck. Fuck. I don't know. For me, like, everybody I feel like has that one thing, but that was the moment that just hit me so hard, like a train. And
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
just so true. And I was
Yeah.
like, and honestly, I feel like that encapsulated everything for me because even that does completely away with like the suffering. Like, who cares at that? I mean, obviously the suffering matters, but it's also like
Right.
it just comes down to their life for like a meal that is so inconsequential. I just thought about all the chicken nuggets I had that like I just couldn't even remember, and
Right.
it was someone's entire existence. It was crazy. Anyways, and so that hit me, and that was the moment I was like reborn again. I was like vegan now for sure. I was actually
Right.
vegan
Right.
versus just a plant based eater. By
That's
the way, I'm
interesting.
not.
So you
Go ahead.
leapfrogged, you like leapfrogged over the, maybe we can do this in a humane way because Ed made that, like he eliminated that option for you. But it's interesting because you did take these steps, like you went from Game Changers, and so I assume you were on Netflix, right? You were like watching these Netflix
Yeah,
docs, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
After
yeah.
I watched Love Is Blind, yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that was just
So
and like the Tiger King. No, but
so, oh right. So they're I think they're also on YouTube, but like just to give like I feel like mostly it's going to be animal rights people that watch this content, but if there is not, like let's give them some context. Like Game Changers is about vegan athletes essentially. Just talking about all these like badass plant-based athletes, and there's so
totally
many. I mean, I've been watching the NBA playoffs, and Kyrie Irving is just out there dominating for the Dallas Mavs right now. He's a
good,
plant-based
cool.
guy, and Novak Djokovic, I watch. He's like the best tennis player in the world, and um, yeah, he's plant-based as well. So yeah, so Game Changers got you in. Then you saw Cowspiracy, another not Netflix documentary that's about the environment. Kip
Yes,
Anderson and team, and yeah, that's also a really powerful one. I think you are the first person that I've ever talked to that mentioned Game Changers first. So that's really interesting.
I know. I
And
feel like it would be more people, but I keep hearing that that's not really the case for a lot of people. But
yeah,
it worked
I
for
just
me. So
yeah, I never heard it. So let me ask you, and then we'll get back. Like you were still taking me
yeah,
along the
yeah.
route, but did you like when you watched Game Changers? Sound like you pretty fully committed to going plant based once you started feeling good. So did you ever cheat on your diet? Did you have animal products here and there?
So I actually have never, no, like never ever.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. I mean, I have probably had something on accident for sure. I actually
Right.
have had products on accident. But never
Yeah.
like where I was like, man, fuck it, like I'm gonna cheat. You know what I mean? It was never like that.
Right.
Um, and I remember there was actually one opportunity I did have to cheat, which it wasn't even like. So it was I was skiing in February, like right before. So again, I went vegan in January or plant based in January. February, I'm on this ski trip with some friends for President's Day weekend, and I remember I was at this restaurant and the guy was uh, asking me what I wanted to eat, and they had a vegan. Or I was like, "Can I get the vegan burger?" Or there's something. I forget exactly what was on the menu, but he goes, "Oh, actually, like, is it okay if the bun has dairy in it?" And
Mm-hmm.
in the moment, I was like, "Oh, well, who cares? Like, it's just a little bit of dairy. It doesn't really matter, right? Because if you're it's just like a plant based perspective, like a little bit of dairy, whatever." And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was even in the moment, I was almost gonna say, "Yeah, like whatever, I don't care." But I don't know. For some reason, I just said, "Oh yeah, let's just can you give me anything else? And then so he ended up giving me like a lettuce wrap or whatever, and so that's what I ended up having. Uh,
Interesting.
and I always remember that story because it's just the only example, at least that happened to me, where that was like a deciding moment. Not that I intentionally went vegan, like not that intentionally that I made a vegan, not that I intentionally made the vegan decision in the moment, but it ended up being the vegan decision, and it wasn't a decision that I could understand the significance of until
Yeah.
a few months later when I actually was vegan, because and I mean, from a logical perspective, we're talking about being plant based and health and like health based vegan or plant
Yeah.
based eater. Then really, in the grand scheme of things, like 1%, 2% of your diet not being plant based
Yeah.
doesn't really impact that too much. But if you're looking at it
Exactly.
from the commodification of animals and being like, oh wait, like I don't want to be a part of that, then it does make a difference, right? So it's like
It makes a
I
difference. Yeah.
and I feel like that's not really something that happens that people are faced with too often. Like I feel like people, um, or no, I guess it does. I don't know, but anyways,
Well,
yeah. So that
like it's interesting because that's a good example where you gave where you did something that you wouldn't have done otherwise, probably because like probably for most people, and it sounds like to me, if you got the lettuce wrap, it sounds like that was sort of like the less convenient, maybe the less tasty option in that. So
yeah.
why do you think you made that choice?
I think this might sound a bit weird, but I think it was just this like purist in me that was like, well, I'm vegan now, so I might as well stick to like I
Yeah.
remember literally thinking like, I guess I'm vegan, I guess I have to care about animal rights or something, or I was like, I guess I can't use wool, and I don't know, it was weird. It was this feeling like I was part of this club where I was like, oh, I guess I need to abide by certain rules and stuff now.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to remember. I remember having this. Again, I was never faced with any kind of not confrontation, not the right word, but no one ever uh, pushed back on anything. I'm like the only vegan out of all my friends still. So at least my personal friends or friends who I met before, like this whole ski trip wasn't and like nobody was vegan. No one's even really vegetarian. So nobody
Wow.
was ever really pushing back anyway. So for me, these were just like thoughts that I were having in my mind and I wasn't necessarily going to buy any wool or buy any leather at that time because I don't buy much stuff anyways
Yeah.
in general. So I never had to like actually face that decision, but I do remember thinking a little bit like, oh, I guess I need to start thinking about. Do I need to start thinking about these other things? Like, what is involved in being vegan? Just because again, I was eating a plant based diet, but was calling myself vegan, and I was thinking about all the other things that vegans do, and like where I
Mhm.
sort of fit in all that. So
That's funny. It's like you like people always say it's like a cult, and we always push back on that. But you were in the cult.
yeah,
You
exactly.
were like I got to do the rules, or I'm going to get cast out.
Exactly. That is what happened to me. That's a pretty funny way to put
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's funny. So okay. So take me back on that journey. So you got you mentioned the Earthling Ed video where you basically said, "Now I'm vegan. Like I'm actually vegan for the
Now I'm straight
reasons
up
of animal
vegan. Yeah.
rights." Yeah. So where did it go from there?
So, I mean, like a quick sidebar too. I just think it's a fun. I know. I think it's an important part of the story actually, and I'll stand by that. But so I
Yeah.
started walking with. So I'd always go on walks with my mom, and like I'd go on walks with my mom every day because it's COVID, and they say go out, don't sit at home all day, and go out if you can walk. And I remember I always talked to her about the animals at one point because I don't know how it is for me it was a very unique situation where I wasn't talking to anybody really about this, and it's COVID, and I'm not interacting with people, and I'm just kind of absorbing this vegan information. And even though like in that moment I understood like boom the whole idea of veganism, there were still so many questions. I don't know how everybody's process is where you're like processing everything, where you're trying to like even just think of all the moral arguments and just it's this really reality shifting experience. It's like a profound moment, where
Yeah.
you just start questioning everything and you start thinking about all these things. I remember even one point I was just thinking, well, why do we treat animals like why is like what governs the way that we treat animals? Why wouldn't we treat them like should we treat them poorly? Should we treat them well? I don't know, just like a lot of questions that you're just kind of thinking through deeply for the first time. And I would talk about that with my mom. And I don't know, she was just, I didn't think, she was just like, okay, nice, like, okay, cool. And I didn't really
Mhm.
think she was listening. And then a couple months later, I just remember one time, she was telling me about how her mom, or sorry, her sister and my aunt, like my aunt, was having her anniversary dinner with her husband, and she was telling me how her aunt was, her sister was telling her all about that. And then my mom goes, "Yeah, like the anniversary dinner, total massacre." And I was like, "What? Holy shit!"
Oh, nice.
You know, like, yeah, like she used it. She came at it from the animal rights angle, and I don't even know when that happened, but the next thing I knew, my mom was like a vegan, like a straight up vegan. And I remember my uncle
Mhm.
was over, and she made him like a Beyond Meat patty.
Wow.
And then and then we were at the table, and my mom just like we're just eating, we're talking about something totally random, and then she just looks up from her plate and she goes, "Yeah, you know, it's just crazy. I can't believe I used to eat animals."
It's amazing. And
I
I
just did
love
not
that
expect that.
story. Well, I love that because, like, on the one hand, I hope this is like gives people hope a little bit because you had that conversation with your mother and you thought, well, this didn't really like go anywhere. And then, like, months down the road, you see that maybe that conversation was the linchpin in this
Straight
kind
up,
of
yeah.
change. And that's just kind of amazing. And then also just the fact, then we kind of harp on, how important activism is, but you were already doing activism. And just like
Yeah,
you always are having these ripple effects, regardless of whether you're even like
exactly.
trying, just
Yeah,
questioning things. That's so cool. Yeah, I had similar with my family, like with my mother and father, like I've been able to get them plant-based, and my mother even will tell me that she has conversations with her friends all the time now, and she's trying to do her part too. So it's really cool like how that happens. Like, and you can just imagine the snowball effect. Maybe she
yeah,
convinces one person, another person convinces another person, and it's a vegan world all of a
yeah.
sudden before you know it.
Well, it's crazy actually. So I swear, like I don't like. This is crazy how this happened, but one last Christmas, so I'm vegan, my mom's vegan, and we went to visit a different sister, but another sister they live in France. So we drove over to see them,
Mhm.
and her son, so my cousin, is also vegan,
Nice.
like he's vegan.
Yeah.
Um, and so we were like the majority. We were like, whoa, we're the majority. And we're like, all right, what's the
Nice.
vegan Christmas meal? You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like, and it's crazy because it's not like you're accommodating for one or two people. It's like, all right, where's the hummus? Where's the guacamole? I
Right.
mean, come
Right.
on, we're all here. Like, it's all, like, we're the majority now. How does it
Yeah.
feel?
Well, it's funny you mentioned your aunts and like all your family. And I actually remember you did a video that I shared long before I ever communicated with you. I shared it with my family because it was about a wedding that you had gone to. And,
Yeah, I
and
saved
I
one
had a
cow at a wedding. Yeah,
You
yeah,
did.
yeah,
And I had a very similar experience where I went to a wedding, and just because I was there, my aunt, who is very accommodating, made sure that there was a vegan option on the menu. And that was an option for everybody. So I don't know how many people actually ended up getting it, but I don't think that would have been an option had I not just showed up. But why don't you tell me about that story, even though you've already told it in that video? We'll link to
yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad you. Actually, it's one of my favorite videos, which is actually like over a year old, I think, at this point. But I love that
Yeah.
video, and it's a cool story. And I'm really happy that you took that away, or you took something away from that, and you shared it. Yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so yeah, like after I went vegan, everybody was like, "What, Danish, you're vegan?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm vegan now." And my friend was getting married, and he was like, you like fill out the form like any dietary restrictions. And I never thought I would be I was always be like, of course not, I'll eat anything. And now I'm like, damn, I'm like the person actually putting like, yes, vegan.
Yeah.
But and so we get to the wedding, and I just remember we you know we get our entrees or whatever, and there's like a whatever red meat, white meat, and then a vegan option. And I was like, oh, like there's a vegan option? Like what? Like, and like, yeah, well, you were coming, and we had a vegetarian option, but we just made the vegetarian option to a vegan option because it just made it easier for everyone and everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, what? And so basically, yeah, everybody who was either going veggie or vegan got a vegan option, and it was more than just me. It was more than just me, and so that's why I make the joke about I saved the cow, because that means who knows how many meals would have had dairy or eggs in them, and
Totally,
ended up being
totally,
changed to a vegan option. So
totally.
for just like one person, because I was just like, hey, like, can we? I didn't even say anything. I just said I'm vegan. That's all I
Yeah,
said. That's all I said. I wasn't even
yeah.
like I'll eat before, and they're like, no, no, we got you. Don't worry about it. And yeah, so I
It,
was really happy to see that.
it's so interesting. So yeah, you did. You had a pretty profound impact, at least on that meal. I mean, because weddings, like it's like at least the wedding that I was at, it was like 100 people there. It was
Yeah,
like a
it's
lot of people, and so yeah, that's a lot of difference that you made there. And so props to you because that's
thank you.
amazing. And yeah, I've never told this story, I don't think, to anybody before, but one of my little like steps towards veganism, I think, was actually watching that show on YouTube. It's called Why We Feast. Have you ever seen that? Like,
I haven't.
it's it's this guy who like he interviews celebs while they're eating hot wings. And so they're basically going through like
Wait,
different spice levels.
yeah, wait, isn't that called hot wings though? But I think I know it.
Oh yeah, maybe Why We Feast is like, yeah, hot takes or hot ones, something like that. Yeah,
Hot
yeah.
ones, hot ones. I think it's hot
Yes.
ones. I do know that one. I haven't. I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
like a couple of it. Yeah,
So great interview show, by the way. That guy does his homework, and it's really a cool show, except for the animal abuse part. But I mean, why it nudged me was like you would see people like Ricky Gervais or Natalie Portman go on there and get the vegan stuff, and I was thinking, if I'm a even before I was vegan, I'm like, if I'm a celebrity and I have a chance to like nudge people a certain way, I would definitely go with the vegan stuff just to even like promote that. And
yeah,
and just because I knew at that time, like, this is a good environmental choice, like, I wasn't thinking about animals then either. And for me, it was like watching Earthlings. So I never, I had sort of like, I was getting nudged kind of slowly, but my first like real jolt of veganism just was like right seeing Earthlings and the brutality. So
wow.
I jumped over all these steps and then became vegan. Um, and an activist basically right away. But yeah, so it's just interesting how like I'm thinking like you're at this wedding and maybe there's some vegetarians in there and they're eating vegan and it's just like a little like kind of
Exactly.
thing that gets placed in their brain that later it comes out. Who knows?
Yeah, and I was always yeah, and I think also in that video I talk about how, and it's kind of what we were alluding to earlier, that the power of just one vegan is really crazy, and people talk about how one vegan doesn't make a difference, and I have a throwaway line in that video, but I think we're at a time where being a vegan has never you've never wielded more power as a vegan than today, because the
Mhm.
fewer of us there are, the more impactful you are
Totally,
when people meet
totally.
you. And the amount of times I've gone to a vegan restaurant with my friends, and I'm like, hey, you guys
Mhm.
want to go to a vegan restaurant? And they're like, okay, and we just go,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a lot of animals. You know what I mean?
right.
And not only do you save animals in that instance, but hopefully you take them to a good place, and then they're like, oh, like that didn't suck, like that was good. Like I have a friend in Mexico, and he's not actually. I don't know if he is vegan actually now, because we were talking about it at some point, but like a year or two ago, I took him to these vegan taco spots, and he was helping me film like a video. And I moved away from Mexico, but since then he's texted me like, "Bro, I've been going to the vegan spots. Like they're so good."
Nice, nice.
And it was cool, right? And so he just frequents these places, and there's just a lot of power that you have as a vegan, especially with non-vegan friends, introducing people to things. Like your existence is activism, you know what I mean?
It is. It totally is. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and so the sad part of that story is I don't think anybody, when I sent them the video, I don't think anybody even made a comment or anything. So I don't know if they watched it, but now I'm interviewing you. I'll send it to them. Surely they're going to watch this interview.
Exactly.
And so if they
Now they
support
heard
me,
the story.
maybe not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah. But you were the perfect video because you seem to approach all your videos from a place of humility. You kind of have this kind of we're all learning as we go kind of approach, which I think just so many people think of like what's a vegan activist going to be like? Well, they're going to be really judgmental. They're going to be pushy, and you're just literally the opposite of that. You have this kind of friendly approach. So Yeah, I mean, that's just another example to me, like where we're all just like trying to do our part and make this
Yeah.
kind of content. And that's a video that probably hit on so many levels that, a Joey Carbstrong video or Earthling Ed video, as great as those videos are, weren't gonna like do the trick with these people.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. And sometimes, this has also been, it's funny as someone who makes content, and I had to sort of decide, or I don't know, it's like hard to describe, but you see the successful people, you see, Earthling Ed and Joey and their style, and so you ask yourself, or at least I ask myself, all right, is this what a successful vegan YouTuber looks like? Is this the way that I have to behave? Is this the way that I have to engage with people? And so even throughout my own video making process and creative process, I don't know if to say experimented, but I've done a lot of thinking and been like, am I making like content because I think this is the right style that I want it to be, or because I think this is how it has to be? And I think I've really tried to kind of just carve out my own path, and everybody should do what they're best at. I feel like I'm not as articulate as Ed. I'm nowhere. I can't be as logical as him, and say these really concise and precise statements, and weave in the facts and the logic as well. So I'm not saying I suck. I'm not saying that either. But I'm just saying he's extremely good at it. Anybody who watches him knows how good he is at that. Or Joey, who is very good at holding people accountable and being teetering the line between being tough with someone and holding people accountable, but also being friendly and approachable. And those just aren't. That's just not who I am. Those aren't my strengths. And how I've always
Mhm.
been is I've always just had a facility with talking to people and just going to a like literally just like going to a party and talking to anybody and being able to engage and find middle ground with people. So and that's my strength, and that's how I've always felt that that comes easily to me. And so
Yeah.
I have tried to use that and apply it to veganism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I've kind of been approaching it.
I agree with that. Because I feel like if everybody's trying to be Joey or something, then we have Joey, and then we have a bunch of Joey clones. Like, really, people should be. It's my opinion. I mean, it's totally my opinion, but I feel like people should be thinking like, what don't we have? It's like we could make similar style content, but like you talked about in your conversation with Justin from Debug Your Brain, you were sort of talking about like finding the different ways to do similar content but put your own spin on it. And
Yeah,
so I think you've done that successfully already. And I'm glad like people who are making content are thinking in that way. Like, do we need another Joey Carpstrong? Like, yeah, I mean, we do. We need a billion of them. But we also need when people like can create kind of a different style, we need that as well. I mean, I'm
totally.
a big believer that there are just certain people that different people are going to be able to reach.
Yeah,
Like Joey's not going to be able to reach like your buddies, like like
yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah,
right.
exactly. And even then, I've just been like something that I'm recently trying to do as well, as I'm posting a lot more videos about how to be vegan rather
Hmm.
than why to be vegan,
Right.
or why you should be vegan. And not that I'm trying to not talk about that, but I'm trying to change the mix a little bit, like maybe 50-50.
Mhm.
And the reason is because I'm realizing that a lot of my friends in my circles, like, they don't watch my videos. Why? Because they're like, oh, like, it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable. Obviously, it makes them uncomfortable when they're hearing about animal rights or even all these different things about the environment, and they don't really necessarily want to be reminded that the decisions that they make suck. But but what I could entice them with is, yo, check out this vlog in Zurich where I ate a bunch of way overpriced food, but it was good, and like you should watch it, and it's cool. I went, so I'm in Italy right now, and I'm doing videos where I'm going around Italy and traveling as a vegan and showing, yeah, like I got this and this and this, blah blah blah, and I
Well,
know
you
my
should try to do a video. Sorry, you should try to do a video with that vegan teacher because I think she lives in Italy. Yeah,
wait,
you should hit her
really?
up.
Like
Yeah, she lives in Italy. Yeah,
the like
famous that vegan teacher.
okay, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that's crazy. Well,
That would be a kind of cool collab that you could do with her. That
that'd
might
be
be nice.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like going to a bunch of different places and trying to show content that maybe somebody would watch otherwise, like a vlog content, and being like, oh, and it's
Mhm.
vegan. You know what I mean? This is all vegan. Or thinking more about even, a lot of people do this too, but you know, showing more of the meals, like what I'm eating. I think it's that. I think I want to do a lot more personally. I think I want to do a lot more showing of food that I actually eat, because especially with a lot of my close friends, I feel like one of the biggest reasons they're not open to eating or to going vegan is because they're scared, right? I mean, because we're all scared, man. Who wants to eat lettuce and tomato all day, right? Nobody. I don't want to eat lettuce and
No.
tomato all day, right? And that
Yeah.
you're just gonna close your ears and you don't want to hear anything. But if you're showing people, actually, look at all this dang food that I'm eating and these pizzas and
Yeah.
pastas, and nothing is really changing, and it's easy, and I'm still traveling. And so just kind of doing some more of that mixing, and then also again, like, this is what I eat in it. Like, people are like, oh, Danish, like, what do you eat? Actually, okay, I'm about to do a tangent. The reason this came to me was because I was traveling to this Italian city with a friend, with a group of friends, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, Danish," because I was filming a video. I was like, "Oh, I'll film like this
Mhm.
Italian city. Like, I'm just gonna film what I eat." And he's asking me, "Can I help you film?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So he's helping me film the whole day, and he just asked me some questions about, "Oh, why do you eat vegan? Why do you eat plant based?" Blah blah. And I answered the questions. By the end of the day, he goes, oh, I wanna do this. Like, I wanna try eating vegan. Excuse me. And I realized, like, I didn't have to like hit him with these crazy stats or like going hard with, but these are the amino acids and the lysine and the leucine. You know what I mean? I didn't have to do
Mhm.
any of
Right.
that, right? Like, that's so. It's just like, oh yeah, it's like better for the environment. You know, it's really good for your health, and you know, think about the animals. So it's like, you know, that sucks. And then he was like, yeah, you're right, actually. Okay, I'm gonna. And so the first thing he did on the train back, he pulls out Instagram, he types in vegan, and a bunch of food starts coming up, and he starts looking at recipes and how to be like go vegan. And I realized, wow, I feel like that is something that I've personally been missing, at least my content. Just showing people more, like, all right, how do you go vegan? You know, what do I do? Like, what does my life look like? And I know there's a lot of people out there doing, like, very good cooks doing plant based content. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's that many people out there doing, like, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say this because I don't really know, but at least that is something that I want to add myself. Like what I eat in a day, or how I live my life, or when I go to a
Mhm.
restaurant, or when I travel. What are things that I can show, or, like, you know, I care about going to the gym and working out, convenience. You know, like,
Yeah.
all this stuff. So how can I just accurately portray my life? And one reason I'm a bit worried about it, because I'm gonna try it, and one reason I'm a bit worried about it too is because I'm not like this incredible cook. You know, I'm not like these people you see on Instagram or YouTube, like
Uh-huh.
Rainbow Plant Life or Young Man Cooking,
Mhm.
or these
Mhm.
people. But whatever. Like, I can, you know, maybe I'll be funny. Maybe I'll crack some jokes.
Yeah, you will, and you're good at that, and I think that's actually perfect because a lot of these people who are doing like what I eat in a day videos are like really kind of well versed in the kitchen, and most of us aren't. Like I can't cook at all. Like I mean, I can try, but it's gonna be a mess. And
Yeah.
yeah, I hope people realize like we if I can do it, anybody can do it. So you can kind of
Seriously,
like get
yeah.
that message across. And yeah, I don't eat lettuce or tomato all day, like you said. Like a lot of people think that's what you're gonna have to do. And yeah, I mean, like I can. I even need to eat better, but I can't remember when's the
I need
last
better
salad I
too.
ate. Like maybe a few weeks since I ate like a salad. So, and
Yeah,
everybody just thinks that we're just eating salad all the time. It's just not the case. Um,
totally.
yeah, it's super easy. So, yeah, I think you'll do really well with that because you always put some clever spin on your videos. In fact, I like one of the first videos I remember where I was like, okay, I like this guy. I can't even remember the content, but you were like, I'm going to address like a controversial topic. I don't even remember what it was. And here's my take. Actually, they're both right. And then you did this like boo sound effect, and you were like, and I was like, that was pretty funny there, Dinesh. That was a good one. It was just so funny. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Do you have any idea?
There was an era where I don't do as many sound effects anymore. I think
Yeah.
it's around the same time as like the cow video, but
Uh-huh.
I can't think of exactly which one.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it was like, here's my take on this, and like, here's the thing. They're both right, or neither of them are right, or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but that was good. So yeah, you do good stuff. You know, you even said this, I think, to Justin in that interview, and I keep referencing it because I just watched it last night. But um, you seem like you have like a, and I love this about you. You're very like humble, but you almost like doubt yourself. Like I'm telling you, like that video you made for us on Ridgeland, it was so slickly edited, and you
Yeah,
were
thank
actually
you.
kind of downplaying your editing skills in that interview, and you just downplayed your eloquence when you were talking about Joey and Earthling Ed. And I mean, I learned recently in watching a video of yours that you attended University of Penn, which is like one of the best schools in the
Yeah,
world. So
yeah.
like, so I mean, you're a very smart guy, and
Thank you.
uh, well, so let's get into your story a little bit more. Find out like who you are as a person, how you grew up, and how you ended up at Penn, and like and how you ended up doing this. Like we've
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm happy to go into that. So, I think so I'm just gonna lay it out on the table. Now I'm playing. No, so
yeah
I yeah, so yeah, back to the beginning. So I mentioned this a lot in my videos. I'm Mexican. My mom is from Mexico, and my dad is from Hungary. So I've got this mixed background. And while growing up, I my dad worked in oil, so we grew up living in a bunch of different countries. And maybe that's how I got good at, I don't know, like meeting people because I was always moving around,
yeah
and so you had to meet people. Um, but I
a
don't
bunch
know.
of like a diverse group of people too, like people from different backgrounds and
Yeah, and I think the most a shout out to my life when I lived in this country called Bahrain. I certainly didn't
yeah
know what it was before I lived there, but it's the Middle East, and I
yeah
think that was probably like the most jarring experience I ever
yeah
had in the best way. It
yeah
was like I had just been in middle school in the U.S. and then my freshman year of high school. I really didn't want to go, but I was surrounded by all these really incredible individuals from all over the world, from like Colombia, Argentina, Jordan,
hmm
the Netherlands, or I guess South America, Europe mostly. But
hmm
those are who my friends were, and that was like a really awesome time for me to grow up a little bit, and and something that was also really important to me always was academics, and I always really defined myself on academic success because I did
hmm
really well in school, and I tried really hard. I tried really hard in school. I think it started when I was in elementary school. It just came easy to me. Like I remember the math tests. I was always one of the first
hmm
ones to finish. Like me and this other guy would like race to see who would.
okay yeah
I don't know if
yeah
y'all remember where you have to do like 40 questions in 30 seconds. It's like 6 times 6, and you're like 36. But anyways, I just remember I was really
yeah
competitive with my friend,
oh
and things
cool yeah
always
yeah
just came easy. And I think I got a lot of validation from that. And so and yeah, I just school was something that academic success was something that I really defined myself by, like I said. And so then throughout high school, I really wanted to get into a top school. I really, yeah, that was my dream. That was all I cared about. Honestly, that was all I cared about. So I studied really hard, and then I eventually, I took the SATs. I took did the work, and I also want to say like I was really lucky that I had the opportunity to focus on school, and I didn't have to worry about. And I had parents who could pay for stuff, and so I do
hmm
want to throw that
hmm
out there. I do want to just like recognize that I was very lucky in that sense that I could just focus on that. And so I did, and then I got into Penn, which was awesome. It was a really really cool experience. And actually,
hmm
I've never gone this in depth about it, but so I was actually in this program called the Huntsman program, which is a program where Penn is divided into four schools, and
hmm
so it's the nursing, engineering, arts and sciences, and Wharton. And
yeah
so there's a couple programs that allow you to get a degree from both. And so the Huntsman
mm
program was one of them, and I applied and I got in. I was really excited about it. And this ties back to Bahrain because in that program you get to study a foreign language. So I chose Arabic because of the time that I had spent in the Middle East and I had grown fond of it.
okay yeah yeah
Yeah, and I was just curious and interested, and I was like, man, let me. And honestly, man, maybe I've always been that way because it was just this crazy thing that I was like, am I really gonna do Arabic? Like that's crazy. But I was like, man, whatever, fuck it. Like let's try it. And now that I'm saying
yeah
it out loud, I'm kind of realizing I think that was just sort of something that I've had in my brain. like not like a non-aversion to just trying something and being like, oh well, if it doesn't work out, like I can always just quit. Like I
Yeah,
can always
yeah,
just go back.
right.
So yeah, so I studied. So I did my 4 years at Penn and studied abroad in Jordan, learned Arabic. That was really really cool. But then I don't know, like because I had always defined myself by academic success, and you're always in this environment where you're told you're the best and you're there because you're the best, it can be a
Hmm.
weirdly limiting experience mentally, because it was something that I was alluding to earlier about talking poorly about vegans, but because I was in the best, one of the best environments with the smartest people,
Hmm.
if I wasn't hearing about veganism, it was because it was clearly not important. Why aren't they talking about it,
Right, right, right.
Um, and yeah, like, and if the smartest and the leaders of the world and everything that you get told about yourselves are not talking about a certain topic, then I'm not going to care about it, because it's clearly it hasn't been pre-selected as like a topic worth caring about. And I
Right.
think that really limited the way that I would think about things. And I also this wasn't these are things that I didn't really realize until COVID, by the way, where I had so much time to reflect and think about things. But because
Hmm.
I valued my academic success so much and I defined my self-worth by it, the next step from that out of college was the next job that I got. And Penn is a hyper competitive school when it comes to jobs. Everyone wants to get, and it's a particular set of jobs, by the way. It's like a very very limited set of jobs. They're all in either consulting or banking, and then maybe tech
Hmm.
nowadays. But and if you weren't getting those jobs, and it has to be New York. If it's not New York, it's you suck. I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. Like it's this weird. Like I was
Yeah,
a guy from
there's.
Texas. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, no, no, no. Sorry, I was just like, yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, no, because like I'm this guy from Texas, and you suddenly realize that it's like, oh, the number one position is New York. Like you got to go to New, like you have to get New York. It's like, well, why New York? I don't really. Why would I want to be in New York? I mean, there's a lot of great
Hmm.
reasons to be in New York, but in the moment, it was just very clear that if you are gonna continue this road of academic excellence that you've
Hmm.
been following your whole life, it's got to be New York.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, yeah, and so
And did you kind of reject that? You were just like, wait, I don't want to be like, on a rail. I
hell
want to
no,
be
I didn't
free to.
reject it. I went straight for that. Like I was not
Yeah.
there yet. Like I was not there yet. I was so. It's a good question.
Uh,
I was so plugged into the whole system. I mean, everyone is. You're learning to care about things that you never really cared about. You start realizing that you attach your self worth to your job, the amount of money that you make. I started thinking, man, like I remember this is so crazy. I was thinking about when we were getting our job offers. I was wondering like, oh, how much are you making, versus how much I was making, just to like kind of rank myself. Like, oh, I'm
mm,
making more money, so I got a better grade. Like it's all. It was
mm,
still. I was still so anchored to that external validation that I was getting.
yeah.
Um, and it's not just me, like everybody, and then after you graduate, and then it's like what apartment you get, how much you're paying for. Money becomes your grade. Money becomes the metric of success. And
Money.
I
Okay.
remember, yeah, like the dollar value that you're making,
Well,
and
well, rewind a little bit because when you were talking about when you were in like elementary school, like you were so motivated to do well in school and you had this competitive drive and everything.
yeah,
But what do you think was driving it? Like, was there like when you're like, I want to get into a top school, was there a goal like I want to be this for my career or something? Did you have like a what you wanted to be yet, or was it more just like achieving the top?
it was just, I would have told you I wanted to be a doctor, for example, because,
Hmm.
oh, you're smart and the doctors are smart and they can help people.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was as
yeah.
far as I went. But it was about being the best. Honestly, if I'm going to be honest, it was just this like
Uh,
competitive drive. And again, like this dopamine hit every time that it was like, oh,
mm.
you got the highest grade in the class. It's like, oh, I did. That felt good. And you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
I'm better than everybody? Nice.
yeah, it's serious. And you
Yeah.
get that, it's
And
like
now
that
you're a
hit. And
vegan
then,
and you get to do that to everybody,
and now I do
not
that on
just
the
Jeff.
daily. That's the real reason I'm
Yeah.
vegan.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, and so and I think it was just that those like I got addicted to the external validation. I got addicted to it for sure,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
100%. And again, like I keep like I who I was the kid who did well in school. Like that's who I
Right.
was. Like I just could not separate myself from that. Like if I ever felt bad about, like I would think I was so much better than everybody else, because I'm like, well, you know what, I got a good score on that test, so Like, who are you to tell me anything? And it was
Became an
really,
identity thing.
yeah, it really was interwoven with my identity. And so when I went, and that all kind of like carried over, and that just transformed from grades to money and jobs
Hmm.
at Penn. And uh, and I think, and I didn't even get a good job. I got it. Like, I didn't get the job that I wanted to get. Like, I didn't end up in New York. I ended up in Boston, which is a city. And I just took this job that I didn't really, want to have. And I do remember too. Like, I remember I really struggled in job interviews because actually, it's a really good question you asked earlier because you were asking me like, did I want some kind of career out of it? In my elementary school days, and I was like, no, I just wanted to be at the top. I just wanted to be the best. Oh, it sounds so
Hmm.
cringe. It sounds weird to say that now because I feel like, ugh, but I was a different person back then. And
So
hey, I was a kid.
honest, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. It's something that I've thought a lot about. And I remember when we had to do interviews for these jobs, like they're like, "Why do you want to work at Goldman Sachs?" And I just was lying through my teeth. Like I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I just like even I just remember it was so those interviews were so hard for me. Like I didn't give a
Mm.
fuck. I didn't want to work there. I didn't want to work at any of those places. I wanted the prestige that came with those places. I wanted to be able
Right.
to say that
Right.
I worked there. But I didn't care about, like discounted cash flows or whatever, or, like case studies or all these different things. And I was confused because a lot of my peers seemed to care a lot about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were being genuine or if they were just better fakers than me. But I ended up, graduating from college, and I took this job that in Boston that was all right, but I still felt shitty about myself because I felt okay.
Hmm.
I didn't get the best job. I wasted my time at this prestigious school. Like I suck. Like all these years of being on a high like came crashing down. And so, but then I ended up
Were you
getting
at the Were you at the top of your class in Penn?
I was magna cum laude, so which is still really good. Which is still really
Yeah.
good. So it's not highest honors, but it's higher honors. So there's like honors, higher honors, and then there's everyone else, right? So it's actually very very good. But I remember at the time I was just feeling. Uh, Actually, I was pretty happy that I was like, yes, at least I got higher honors because at one point I pledged or I did a fraternity one semester and that was not good for the GPA, so I was
Yeah.
able to recover from that. Uh,
I wonder if
but
these employers doing the interviews could tell that your heart really wasn't in it and that it was more about this prestige thing, which
maybe.
is kind of it's a little weird to me because the I just feel like that whole world has to be filled with people like that. Um, so, but yeah, but maybe you were just a bad liar. I don't know. Like, or do you think maybe you're a bad liar?
I'm so used to being honest. No,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But it was just it was hard, and I think it made more sense a little bit later on because so then I ended up still chasing this like these ambitions of like the top a prestigious role, and I actually ended up after my first year of this job that I didn't really like that went horribly, and I could make a whole video on that, like not even related to veganism, just like this horrible time in my life, the worst year of my life, actually. I can say
Interesting.
confidently.
Yeah.
My first year of work was such a horrible year. And I think it really set me up for having a really distorted view of corporate life and
Hmm.
work life balance. But, anyways, so I ended up working at this other, and I finally got to this prestigious company 1 year after I moved. I moved to the West Coast across the country to be there, and then I'm back on the grind. Like, okay, now I'm in this company, but now I need to get promoted faster than everybody. Like, it's crazy. Like now that I'm like just saying it, it's just crazy how this competitive desire, for the sake of being the best,
Hmm.
for no other reason than to be better than other people, was what drove me in a lot of these
Yeah.
instances. And so I was just, okay, how can I get promoted in a year? Like fastest on the floor. I need a year and a half. Um, and so that's something that I kept trying to do. And I think it was, I don't want to say, I don't know if I should say blessing in disguise, but I worked so hard for a while at that job and I got burned so bad by my bosses, by my multiple bosses,
Mm.
that I suddenly realized, what the fuck am I doing this for? Like,
Yeah.
I hit a wall so hard that made me realize I'm like killing myself. I'm coming in early. I came in on a goddamn Saturday. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
Which for me was just like very like which is for me was just I know like some people normalize that, but for me that is just like a huge what? How could you do that? You know, that's your weekend, and it gave me this really, really, really cynical view of the view of work and how I wanted work to be in my life, and it all just kind
Mhm.
of came down at the same time where I started realizing like, wait a second, like I've cared so much about like prestige and money, and now I'm sort of realizing that even if I put in effort, I'm not necessarily seeing the results that I think are proportional to what
Yeah.
I'm putting in, and then I also started realizing, wait a second, if my work isn't proportional or if the results aren't proportional to the work that I'm putting in, then this isn't even a good indicator of like why am I letting this dictate my self worth, which it shouldn't have anyways. But that's what I
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
kind of clicked. I'm like, well, what the hell? Like this is crazy. And then I started realizing, okay, well, I actually want to there's so many more ways to measure the success of my life. Like I'm gonna learn to ski. I'm gonna learn, I don't know, to dance. I'm gonna go out with friends. I'm gonna go on dates. I'm gonna go whatever. I'm gonna go travel. I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna save money for retirement. What the hell am I doing here? Like working my ass. Like I hated, and I was just like hated working in the sense of like I hated feeling that I had to show up at this time and leave at this certain time and feeling like I had a boss that was just like the I would always get so anxious. Like I was always thinking I was on the verge of getting fired. It just felt like I just really hated that environment. Maybe it's because I never had a good work environment, but honestly, I don't really know how you can because you're always at the risk of getting fired. Like every morning, you're like, "Well, I hope I don't get fired today," and not know what I'm going to
Mhm.
do with my and have to look for a job and be financially unstable and not have health insurance and not have all these different things. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of that stuff hit me at once, and that set me apart a lot from a lot of other people because I started thinking, wait a second, I don't care about work that much. I actually, instead, I want my work. Like I just don't like work. Okay, I don't like going to work. I don't like pretending that I like what I'm doing. Like it's fine. Like it's fine. It's okay. Like whatever. But I don't want to sit here and pretend like this company's goals and objectives are my goals and my objectives, and a company hitting a certain milestone on their revenues of their like quarterly revenue is
Yeah.
like something that I'm super happy about. Like I don't care about that. And the minute that and they can fire me in a second, I'm not. I don't even have ownership. Like
Yeah.
why would I give so much of myself to someone who I'm not even a footnote? I'm not even going to be a footnote. I'm going to know that, but the company doesn't care. Nobody cares. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so I was like, how can I work on my own projects and start doing my own things? And how can I make the money? So I started seeing my job as just like a transactional thing between
Mhm.
me and the company. I started thinking, how can I use the money? And you know what? This job is just a transactional agreement that I have with the company. I go in, you get some of my time, I come out, take the money, and I do what I want with it, and I start building what I want.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so that all.
Well,
Uh,
let me jump in real
Go
quick
ahead.
because I just want to say, like, you're talking a lot about like I don't like work, but that's not what you're saying. You're saying I don't like this work.
I don't like to be
It,
employed. I don't like to have an employer. Probably is a
yeah,
better way to
yeah.
put it.
Well, I mean, because what I want to emphasize, like, people might hear that and be like, well, so Danish, like, just lazy. Like, you've done amazing work. You work really hard. You just have to have purpose and passion for what you're doing. And you had no reason for these jobs that you were at. And it's so good that you've realized that now. And it's like, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit and getting towards animal rights and veganism and stuff, but it's like it's almost like saved your life because you found purpose.
Absolutely, I agree 100% with that. And you're right. I do need to work on that framing. I have been called out on that before, where I'm like, I hate work, but for me, work is so intrinsically tied to. For me, work means like going into an office 9 to 5. But you're right, and it actually is something that I started doubting myself. I was like, am I a lazy bum? Like, what the hell? And it hasn't been. I know I'm skipping ahead, but for myself too. But now that I'm doing this, and for the first time in my life, I'm feeling really happy about the hours that I invest, and I'm willing to put in a lot of time. And it made me realize, wait a second, this almost reminds me of school, where it's like, well, at least I'm putting in time that I feel like is proportionate to the results that I'm getting. If I study for a test and I work really hard on my grades, then I'm gonna get a good result. And maybe that you at least with content, it's like I'm putting out content. I'm able to like create content that I'm happy with and I'm pleased with the results.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah,
so
I I hear what you're saying. Yeah. I had so many thoughts while you were talking. One is like I could really relate with your experience at Penn when you said, I wasn't learning about veganism there because and I just, basically like in your head, it was like this isn't an important topic because the most important people in the world or most whoever, the most brilliant people aren't talking about this. My background is in public radio for like NPR member stations, and I spent like 15 years there.
you do have an
And it
amazing
wasn't,
voice.
oh, thank you, thank you. Well, too bad I need to get a good microphone, but the but I didn't know the first thing about animal agriculture until I had sort of a similar experience, I think, as you, to where I was really disenchanted with the place that I was at. I won't go into it, but it didn't end in a friendly way, and and there were a lot of reasons for that. But the one of the first things that happened right after I parted ways, like, and just I was done with radio. I was like, I'm out of this for good, and I have no intention of going back. But I
Yeah.
learned, I watched Earthlings and I was like, why was I a reporter for 15 years at NPR or public radio and didn't know about this? That is absurd to me. And
Yeah.
in the intervening years, like one of the things that I've done is work with Direct Action Everywhere's press team. And I told them, I can, I have all these contacts at public radio. I can get us on NPR and I cannot. Like, there's been a few exceptions where I have gotten it, but there's just no interest in that. And
Yeah.
it's so disillusioning. Um, because there's supposed to be people who are smart and
Yeah.
care, and they are smart and they do care about certain things, but it's like when you confront them with something that challenges them and really is hard to take, I'm just like, I find it really weird that so many people reject. I don't know the psychology behind that. I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe
I
you
agree
have some
completely though.
answers.
No, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just this. I think it's just. Sometimes I wonder. I think it's because it's something that we all kind of have known is fucked up, but we've all
Yeah,
collectively agreed that we're not gonna talk about it and not accept it.
yeah.
And you're kind of like breaking that unspoken agreement. Because I
Right.
think I don't know who as a kid doesn't ask like, wait, we're eating the chickens? Like this is the same?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and it's like, what?
I
You
but
know what I
I
mean?
I honestly don't recall ever even having a thought about it. I mean, maybe I did, and I don't have a good memory of my early childhood. I don't know why, but yeah, maybe I did ask that. But I just went through my entire life, and it took
Yeah.
me 34 years, just like completely not questioning anything.
Yeah.
Um, and I was also like really progressive in my values and stuff, and I was very open to being challenged, and I got challenged a lot, and met amazing people along the way. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm saying. Like I like with your videos and stuff. Like I just really wish someone had told me. Like
Yeah.
that's because I was open to it, but so many people
Exactly.
aren't open to it, Danish. I don't know why.
Yeah, and it really brings out something in people. Like it is like I've talked to a lot of people about it. Obviously, I'm sure you have too, and it's just the things that people start saying. You know, it's like you're not even talking to them anymore. You just see them turn into this autopilot mode where they start
Yeah,
going through. You know, we've heard every reason.
the Rolodex of excuses, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's crazy because sometimes like because I mean I'm not always I'm not always trying to if I'm like at a party and I'm just trying to like have a beer and someone
hmm
comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, I heard you're vegan," and I'm like, "Oh fuck."
yeah, yeah. It's not always you're trying to push it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, so like, why don't you eat animals?" And I'm like, "Oh man, okay," because we know, like, it's like, all right, now I have to be very careful about the way that I say
hmm
this because you know,
Hmm.
because they, I'm not shitting on that person. Like maybe they're just like really curious, like yeah, like what, tell
Yeah,
me.
maybe.
But you know, it does, as vegans we know that this is such a sensitive conversation, and if you don't hit every point very carefully, there is a very big chance this person is going to get very angry with you, and it's going to ruin the night.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So you have to be like, man, I'm
Well,
like 2 beers in, man. I don't know if I can, I don't know if I
I
can
mean,
be great.
Danish, there was a roofer at my house today, like I told you, and it was his birthday just the other day, and we were shooting the shit. We were relating really well, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I went to this like steak place and I got like a $50 steak," and I'm like, "Oh okay." And I'm like, I've got all these like vegan stickers everywhere. I'm like, I guess he's like, I was like, is this guy trolling me? Like, did he? Is he purposely doing so?
Yeah.
Anyway, my point being, like, I took an L today,
Yeah, you took
before
an
I started this
L.
interview
You
because
take a
I
lot of
didn't
L's.
I didn't say anything to this guy because I didn't want to disrupt. Like, I don't want him to,
Yeah,
I want him to do a
exactly.
good. So, but I mean, I should have said something like, like even just saying, oh, no, I don't eat there. I don't eat animals. I've been like vegan for
Yeah.
6 years. I just, yeah. And I could have said that. And I was replaying it back in my head. I was like, I should have said something to this guy. I was like, you feel like responsible for everybody. I'm like, I could have told him, like, I'm not trying to judge you, but, I saw what happens to the cows. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I will never touch that again. That could have changed his life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just talking to a guy just the other day who had had a heart attack. And at least in that instance, I sent him a bunch of stuff and I was like,
Yeah.
here, get on this plant based and you'll be fine. You'll
It'll
be
help
good.
you a lot. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, you have to take L. But you know what I realized earlier today? I was like, an L, two L's make a W,
A
my
W, yeah. That's I like
friend.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
if there's
sometimes
lowercase four, so maybe
yeah.
you have to take four losses.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you get W's, like with the guy who I just went
Right,
out with the
right.
videos, but yeah, then they start
Yeah.
asking you questions, and you're like, oh, like, do I really want to have this conversation right now? Like, is it like, so yeah, and the conversation can go any which way, right? It can go well, it can
Yeah.
go poorly, but you don't know, like, you don't know how it's
Oh
gonna
man.
go, and it's like you're saying, sometimes it's like, man, I'm just like, you're like just trying to get your coffee at the coffee shop, and
Right.
they're like, so you're vegan? Why are you vegan? I'm like, dude, I really just want to get my coffee. Like I'm not trying to have this
Yeah.
whole discussion right now.
It's really funny because actually, like, vegans do have this reputation of like talking about it all the time, but it's brought up to us more so than, and it may be because like for one, you have a YouTube channel, you're sort of more public about it now. I might, and for me, like when I talk about my work, it's like impossible for me to separate animal rights from work unless I
Yeah,
lie, which I do a lot actually. Sometimes when people ask me like what I do for a living, I'll tell them, oh, this and that, or I'm like, I work in media or
same.
some shit. Like because I don't, I'm like you, I don't always want to have that conversation because
Yeah,
yeah, they can be really intense conversations.
and
Yeah, I've had many arguments at
yeah.
bars with people where like the bartenders coalesce to like
Oh,
rain down this excuse bomb on me.
yeah. But I think it's fair. Like honestly, I think it's fair. Like I don't think it's even fair to ask vegans to be like, you have to every single moment you have to fight every battle, and it's like, dude, honestly, there are I don't always want to fight. I don't always have the energy to fight every battle. I don't want to fight every battle. Like I
Yeah.
want to have some. I want to be able to pick and choose when I have normalcy in my life. And if I'm out on a Friday
Hmm.
night and I'm just trying to have a good drink with friends, and someone started asking about veganism, and I don't really want to have that conversation in the moment, either because I've had too many drinks or because I talk about veganism all the time, and I just want to take a break. I think it's totally fine. And I was listening to Earthling Ed talk about it once, and he made a really good point. He said, you know what, we're all carrying this on our back, and we don't all always have to be carrying all the weight, because some people need to like take a
Totally.
break and go rest because you got a ton of other people carrying the
Yeah.
weight, and you can come back when you're ready. And
Well,
that's how I see it.
in those instances, I think it's totally legit for you to say, "Look, I don't really want to talk about this right now." Like I got this buddy of mine. He's from Morocco, and he's this older guy. He's like 70 some, and we traveled together. We were good friends, and but people would always like ask him questions like, I'm sure you get this sometime too, like where are you from?
Where are
All
you
these
really from?
questions, just like. Yeah, like sometimes well-meaning people are just curious, but then they ask questions that, like a white person wouldn't get. So
Yeah,
anyway, my buddy from Morocco, he's really good at just saying what's on his mind. Like he will just tell people what he feels. And I
yeah,
remember this guy walking up to him like, "Oh, where are you from?" And he was like, "I don't want to talk to you right now." It's like great accent. He's like, "I don't want to. I'm just trying to look. We're just sitting out there at a bay looking at the water." And yeah, so I think it's just totally legit for you to like draw up a boundary when somebody's saying, what about this? Like maybe you have like a card or something, like AV cubes, they have the little card here, like here,
yeah.
check out some of these
Exactly.
documentaries. That's
Yeah,
that's what you need. Um, but yeah, it's like it is a weight that we carry all the time. And it's like I even talked about this before, like you have this guilt too. I don't know if you feel this sometimes where when you're not doing something for animals, you're like I don't know if you feel this. I sometimes do where I'm like, what did I do for animals in this moment? Like they're in those cages, they're getting hurt, and I'm like living my comfortable life.
yeah.
But you have to find this balance or else you will just burn out like a flame really fast.
I agree. And for some reason, I don't really, that doesn't happen to me so often. Like, and I don't know why. Like, I feel like I might be desensitized, and it's not just the animals. Like, whenever it comes to like any like global crisis or issue, there's some people who really feel the pain of others
Mm.
who are suffering. And like, I don't know. I don't want to come off like heartless or anything, but for some reason, it just doesn't. It like I don't know. It
This
doesn't hit me like that. It doesn't hit me like that. Um,
This is such an
you
important
know.
point you're making, actually. Like, and I can relate to this also. Like, I'll be at vigils, like where, the pigs are coming in, and I'll see like some of my activist buddies like in tears, and I'm like, I never felt anything close to that out here. Like, this is terrible. And I guess like the way I look at it, I'm like, it's gonna happen whether or not I'm here or not. But then I'll tell you, like, you should just be aware that actually I think I could be wrong, but I feel like you are feeling it. It's just like really not at the surface. Like you're having like little dings happen to you like beneath the surface, and one
Yeah.
day one day you're gonna be somewhere and you're gonna feel it, and then you're gonna be like, oh, that's where that feeling was.
Yeah. So
Because you're a
yeah.
compassionate person, obviously. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so I will say, like, I think the way that it manifests in me, anyways, is I have cried talking about veganism with people, like, unexpectedly. Like, I was not expecting to talk about it. I was having lunch with somebody at a vegan restaurant, this couple, and I started crying in the middle of the day, just talking about I remember I was talking about the animals, and I just started crying. And I was like, oh, I mean, and I've talked about it at that point. I probably talked about it hundreds of times, and I don't know why I just started crying. So sometimes, like sometimes, it really, really hits me.
Mhm.
And for me, I feel anger a lot of the times.
Yeah,
I'll walk
yeah.
around and in the grocery store and I'll see a fish, in the
Mhm.
freezer, and I'll just look at that and be like, come on, like this is so obvious, y'all. Like what the fuck? Or
Yeah, yeah,
or you'll see like cuts of meat or like the legs of animals, and I'll just be like, really, like y'all, like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's almost like it's not
it-
even frustration so much at obviously it's frustration at that, but it's also frustration at everybody. It's like, hello,
yeah.
like what the fuck?
What is this? What
Yeah,
is this?
like
Yeah, and I get so mad like where there will be like it's like there's the vegan item right next to the meat item, and people grab the meat item. Like, what are you doing? Like, it is really hard. Yeah, I would say that the emotion that I feel most often is anger as well too.
yeah,
I also
yeah,
just like I'm like we're a pretty smart species and yet also a really stupid species.
yeah.
I'm like, and I get really frustrated at this sort of collective stupidity that everybody has. And it's like you said when you were talking to people at Penn, you're talking to brilliant people, probably some of the smartest people in the world. But yeah, you start talking about animal rights or veganism, and then you get that Rolodex out,
You get that
and it's
Stonewall.
like, yeah, and it's really
Yeah,
frustrating because you're like, so if this is what the smartest people are like, and let's diffuse that. We should actually debunk that because yes, people. prestigious universities are very intelligent, but people at any university could be really intelligent. It's really
Totally
just
agree.
access and all
Absolutely.
this stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or,
Uh,
like not in school at all. Like some of the most brilliant people I've met were like ex-addicts who strippers, and like they
yeah.
were like the most
Absolutely.
brilliant, smartest people that I ever met, sharp as can be. Yeah.
and, and I think that was another of this like conditioning that I had at Penn was being convinced of exactly what you just said. If you weren't at Penn or at a similar school, you
Mm-hmm.
weren't smart. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until years
Mm-hmm.
after where I feel ridiculous saying that. But you're right. Like I've met so many brilliant, really brilliant people who didn't go to one of these institutions for so many different reasons. Didn't want to, didn't have the financial means. Maybe they developed later. Maybe they just hit their stride later in life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to like, for example, I hope he's okay with this. So I talked to Mike the vegan, and he
Mm-hmm.
was telling me that he didn't do that well. He didn't really do that well in school when he was younger. And to me, I'm like, Mike the vegan, he seems to be one of the most on top of his game, smartest people that I've ever like
Yeah.
seen. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it took me a long time before I started like he said like his brain developed later, you know?
Mm,
And you know, that could be another thing too. Like sometimes people just hit their strides at different points in their life. Uh
totally. Well,
and
it's kind of like you said about work too. Like, it's like education is one thing, work is another thing. You were saying like, I didn't like work, but like I see someone who works really hard. It's
yeah.
just not a traditional job at
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, I think what I hated was the lack of autonomy of like my own life, you know?
Hmm.
uh, you know, it sounds very vegan as I say it, like lack of autonomy, because you know we talk about the animals how they don't have autonomy, but in a different level,
Right,
you know,
right.
I felt
Yeah,
like, but I don't know. I guess maybe we can just draw a comparison there. Like even that level of, I mean, obviously I could still go home and do other stuff, but the feeling that I didn't even have control over my own life just like really bothered me,
right, right.
and working on something that I just genuinely didn't care about and felt like I honestly maybe it
Hmm.
is close to veganism because it was also I'm like looking around and I'm like, why are we all pretending that we care about this? Like I know we're talking at the bars and how we don't care about this. Like why are we all faking this? Like it just really bothered me to feel like everyone's just faking like loving their work or like this passionate projects and I'm like, dude, you're telling me your whole life was to be the product manager for this roadmap of this product we're launching? Like this
Hmm.
is what you've been dreaming of since you were a kid? Come on, get the fuck out of here. Like no
Right,
way.
right.
And just these lies people would tell themselves and like convince themselves, and so that would just
Hmm.
really 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 bother me. And okay, I'm not saying that like I mean maybe some people maybe that is the dream for some people, but the vast majority of people that I interacted with and the life experience that I take away is that this is not how most people felt, and it really really bothered me to see that cognitive dissonance. No, I don't think that's the right term in this case, but that difference in realities. So that really bothered me.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
kind of like living an illusion or something. I mean, yeah, yeah, people just kind of uh well, they're doing what you were doing. They were like, living a life that they thought they were supposed to live,
yeah,
really
exactly.
had no meaning. And Yeah, and we talk about this a lot, like in animal rights, just like finding your purpose and your meaning is like really much more valuable. In fact, Wayne and I were talking about this the other day. We were talking about how so many parents like are so risk averse and want their kids to be safe, and
Yeah,
so this kind of work is often discouraged. But
definitely.
yeah, but in
Definitely discouraged.
actuality, yeah. I mean, and it's understandable, like when you're like somebody like Wayne who was like facing years in prison, that your family might be kind of uncomfortable with that.
Yeah,
But at the same time, he was saying, I've never felt better than when I felt like I had a purpose
yeah,
in why I was doing something.
absolutely.
And and he said to me, and I think it's an interesting point, that you're the only real way to keep your kids safe is to help them find their purpose. And I think that's true because, yeah, if you don't have a purpose, then you end up doing something stupid, or I mean, you're gonna like desperately seek out a purpose in some way, but you're not gonna
Yeah.
know where to find it. And yeah, you might end up just going really astray. Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying resonates with me a lot too, because at Penn, I remember again like the things that you could do were, become a consultant, become a banker, or start your, the one that stuck out to me was start your own company. But it was start your own company for the sake of starting your own company. It was like start your own company so you can be Mark Zuckerberg. Start your own company. It was like start your own company and become a billionaire basically.
Right. Well,
And I
why?
remember,
Yeah.
right, and I remember at one point that I wanted to start my own company because I wanted to become rich and a billionaire.
Hmm.
Then I started realizing, okay, well, if I want to start my own company, I want to solve, like, it just seems so empty. It seems like purposeless to just do it for the
Yeah.
sake of doing it. It's like doing it for a reason that I wasn't comfortable with. And then I realized if I want to start my own company, I want it to be a company that is solving a problem. At the time, I wanted to do something about sustainability because, obviously I
Okay.
still care about
Yeah.
sustainability, but that was almost something that was a little bit more in your face, even like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
So while you were
Um,
at Penn, you wanted to do stuff about sustainability, is what you're saying?
After Penn, after a couple years during
After Penn.
working, yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
this was once I had started realizing, like, started seeing through a lot of the BS and
Yeah.
kind of realizing that the stuff that I wanted wasn't stuff that I wanted. It was stuff that they were ideas that I had inherited.
So did you have any sense of like your sort of more altruistic side at Penn or prior to Penn? Like what I wonder what like what's the first sign of this appearing where you kind of devote your life to others?
I think it was
And
I
it's
don't
okay if it
know,
was game
yeah.
changers. Like if that was the
No.
start of
Well, I'm trying to
it.
think. Well, I'm trying to think, and it's like I can remember certain moments that are like I remember one day thinking I like what's the word, viscerally. I viscerally remember walking and thinking, um, wow, like it's weird that we eat animals. Like
Really?
that's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, like I was like in 100 years, like because I was thinking about lab grown meat, and I was like, wow, when we have lab grown meat, people are gonna be really fucking
Hmm.
weirded out that we used to eat animals. But
Yeah.
I just remember having that thought, and I think like 100 years, like we're not gonna be eating animals, something like that. I remember thinking that, and then I think like I've always like wanted to help people. Like I've always wanted a purpose as well.
Hmm.
And I'm really thankful for veganism in that sense, where I feel like I finally figured out, like, fuck, like this is what I can use all of the skills that I picked up at Penn, the languages that I've learned, the dedication to, or like, yeah, the dedication to doing stuff right, the
Hmm.
work ethic. For as much as I shit on corporate, the work ethic they teach you is quite good. The
Hmm.
like 9 to 5, the grind, the like setting up your meetings. The everything that they teach you is quite good. And I was feeling I can apply this to something for the better. For
Yeah.
like put a positive spin on it. And
Yeah, I was thinking
yeah,
the whole time that you were talking about your sort of competitive drive and everything, I was like, man, if we can harness this for the animal rights movement and just get him like trying to compete with everybody, be like, no, I'm going to be better than fucking Ed. I'm going to be better
yeah,
than Joey and everybody.
yeah,
Then
yeah,
yeah, you're going to
yeah.
make some good content. I mean, and that would actually be good. I mean, competition is good. Like
Agreed.
it makes us strive to be better. Yeah. So okay, so that and I also like you had mentioned your mother
Yeah, I love her.
going vegan with you.
Yeah,
So it sounds like she's kind of on this same level of like thinking of others too. So maybe you got some of it from her too.
yeah. She's the best, man. She's the best.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, maybe that's where it started. Honestly, like my mom's always taught me to be super empathetic, like super super empathetic. She's
Hmm.
always has the best perspectives. I hope that when I'm older, I can take half the perspectives that she takes. Her outlook on things are so deep. Whenever you have problems or issues that come up, especially interpersonal problems, the way that she looks at things is it's just so profound. And
Yeah.
I remember even when I was a kid, I remember learning about trans people when I was a child. Like my mom would tell me
Hmm.
from the empathetic side, she would tell me, man, like yeah, sometimes men are born in the bodies of women and vice versa, and like they
Hmm.
suffer a lot. So it's like, we gotta, just, but yeah, they're out there. Like people, like it is what it is, and she came at it more from like the like people out there who are suffering and who struggle with their in their lives and stuff, and just like the empathetic angle, because obviously it is hard to be a trans person. Back then it was even hard. It's hard as hell today. So
Yeah, if you were pretty young when she was having that conversation with you, then that was like really even before trans issues became like kind of the new front in the gay rights movement, you know,
yeah,
like yeah, because yeah, I mean honestly, like so I spent a long time in the gay rights effort as well. But even I remember like when trans issues started to happen, it was still even kind of new concept for me, to be honest. And like I remember even just struggling to like with getting people's pronouns right and like having to like kind of get used to.
yeah,
I still fuck that up a lot,
me
and
too.
luckily my
But it's
friends
the
are
intention that
really
counts.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
luckily my friends are really like not too sensitive about that. But yeah, but
So
that's interesting. So you must have been taught. You were probably thinking a little differently than most kids at that time.
yeah, I think I had a really empathetic upbringing. Like very yeah, and I think yeah,
What
I think
about
my
your
mom
father?
went
Like
along.
your mom. You mentioned your mom, but what about your dad?
My dad's just very different.
Hmm.
He's not vegan, for example, and yeah, I learned like for example he's someone who really he's someone who really pushed me academically, not in like
Hmm.
okay, actually as soon as I said that it made it sound like the helicopter parenting. That's not what I meant at
Hmm.
all, actually. But I would say I am as successful as I am academically because of my dad, because my dad was the one who noticed that I was doing well in school, and he was like, whoa, you're doing really well in school. And I was like, hell yeah, I am.
Hmm.
And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, like, do you want to like go into this advanced class? And I was like, uh, what? And he was like, yeah, like, why don't you try it? So yeah, he would really focus on reading to me as a kid a lot. He really focused a lot
Mm. Yeah.
on like, what's it called? Like watering my skills. No, there's a better word for it, but
Cultivating. Yeah.
cultivating my academic successes. And it's funny. I never, ever, ever got pressure from them, ever, like academically,
Hmm.
ever. Like it was always self imposed. So I just wanted to like I just wanted to be a little bit clear about that. Not that anybody might have been doubting, but just for myself, because yeah, I didn't want anyone to take away that maybe my parents had been really really intense about it, because it was always me. But they were really,
Mm.
especially my dad was really important in succeeding academically. And
Yeah.
I think even today, like my dad is a little bit concerned with what I'm doing. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I mean, he doesn't say it that way, but
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, he is confused. He's from Hungary. He came to the U.S. and he worked his ass off to be able to get into positions that he did, and help me get the educations that I did. And now he's like, "You're doing what? Like, but you have like these degrees."
It's so funny. All of my conversations go this way. It's just like talking about how, yeah, our parents had this vision for us and we're not following it, and now we're just this like doing this crazy like animal rights stuff that is not gonna get a like let's just be real. We're not gonna get a ton of money. We're not gonna like if we stick with this full time, like we're probably not gonna have the most comfortable life. And some people like Wayne might end up in prison and it's just like
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah,
tough. Pretty tough thing to explain. I think at least you're on your mom's side. She understands the why you're doing it.
yeah.
Your dad maybe not so much, but sounds like he was pretty critical in your upbringing though.
Yes, in the sense of like yes, in the positive way. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and this is I don't think I've ever talked about this, but uh, like he was the one who got. So I was a fencer. I fenced,
Uh,
which is like the sword fighting, because it was
yeah. Wow.
really big in Hungary, and I fenced because of my dad. So I actually did a lot of
Interesting.
fencing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, he was a little bit. Now that actually, when it came to fencing, he was a little bit
He was a little
more,
intense.
a little bit more intense. Not like by any means like what you see with like other parents and stuff, but
Mm,
I did remember that he was a lot more involved because he was a fencer too. Like he fenced in
mm-hmm,
Hungary,
mm-hmm,
and he was
mm-hmm,
really good in Hungary. I think he made like the junior team or whatever or something, and so he was like
mm,
very very good. And it was always fun traveling and stuff with him. and go seeing different places. And then I fenced at Penn. Actually, I also fenced at Penn, so that was
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah. So that was really fun. That was cool, and it was a really good community of people that I made. Like some of my fondest
So
memories were fencing. Yeah.
so don't get in a sword fight with Danesh is what you're saying,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you
I'm
will
professionally
go
trained.
down.
Yeah, exactly. But that also meant I was an athlete, so I was always thinking about like protein and food
Right, right, right.
and game change. Maybe that's why game changes really impacted me because I was like, what,
Yeah, yeah.
you
It's
know,
really
from the
amazing
athletic
game.
angle.
Right, right. Yeah, I I can't recall like ever like thinking that vegans were weak or anything, but Game Changers was a cool film that did kind of turn a lot of things on its head for me. Are you a polyglot?
Uh, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
yeah. I just saying that sounds so cringy, but I defend
Uh,
myself in a few languages. Yeah, I'm
oh,
actually learning
okay.
Italian right now.
Okay, Italian. So you're English, and your mother is Mexican. So you said so probably Spanish, right?
Yeah, I speak Spanish as
Yeah.
well.
And did you get fluent in Arabic?
I'm like pretty good. Like I'm decent.
Pretty
Like I went
good.
back to
Okay,
Jordan.
interesting.
Yeah, I went back to Jordan a couple months ago, and I was like really impressed with myself. So all right, I'm still hanging with the. I'm still hanging with the. I'm like I can talk. I can communicate. I can. Arabic's really
Yeah.
hard though. That's like the hardest one I've ever done.
Well,
Uh,
Arabic's tough. Like you've got the different, characters too. So
yeah.
reading, and by the way, has such beautiful characters too. I know. I remember it's just gorgeous. Like I had the privilege of dating a Muslim woman for she bestowed upon me 2 months of dating this amazingly beautiful person, and when she put her name into my phone, she used Arabic characters, which was so
Oh.
beautiful. Like man. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think because you're a really intelligent guy, you kind of probably wanted to challenge yourself with Arabic a little bit. I feel like um, you must have known I'm taking on a language that is going to be probably one of the hardest to learn. Well,
I don't know.
and you sort of breezed over your experience in Bahrain, but said that it was really impactful on you. So, like, could you elucidate that a little bit?
Yeah. So and just real quick, I had no idea what I was signing up for when I signed up for Arabic. In the sense of,
Okay,
I
yeah,
knew it
yeah,
was gonna be hard and stuff, but I didn't ever realize it was gonna be as hard as it was. It was crazy hard,
yeah.
because it just gets harder the more you learn about. It. You're like, what? But anyways,
Hmm, hmm.
so yeah, Bahrain and in Bahrain, I didn't even learn Arabic there. I mean, I learned like 10 words maybe. I didn't learn to read. I didn't learn to write. I didn't learn anything. But I went to an American school. My friends, I had Arab friends. Maybe a third of them were Arab, but I just learned very they all spoke English. Everybody was going to the American private school, so it was
Hmm.
more people of a higher socioeconomic status. Um, but yeah, it was just like I don't know. It was just a really nice experience, and I I'm still in touch with like one of my best friends is still from that part of my life. Actually, it was his wedding I went to in September when I went
Oh,
back to
okay,
Jordan,
interesting. Yeah.
and
Oh,
I've kept
nice.
in touch with him all these years, and we really have impacted each other's lives for the better. So that's
That's
really
cool.
nice. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have much else to say about Bahrain. It was just a really like yeah unique experience. American school. I played basketball. I was the goalie for like soccer for football,
Yeah.
which is
You
fun.
haven't mentioned, it sounds like maybe you didn't really struggle with this. Maybe are you very outgoing, but you bounced around a lot. It sounds like did you ever feel isolated or you struggle with buddies, like making friends? You seem pretty natural at it, maybe.
At the time, I mean, it's not especially not in high school and stuff because you're always being thrust into new groups of friends. So I really never like
Hmm.
had problems with it. Especially in
Nice.
Bahrain, I just got immediately sucked up into the group of guys and the girls, and it was just so much fun with them.
Right,
And
right,
it
right.
was super tight knit. It was honestly one of the closest friend groups I've ever been a part of, and so it was really nice to have. College, I joined a fraternity, which was uh, it's weird. I look back on it. I don't know how I look back on it because
Hmm.
um, I yeah, because I'm referring to all the problematic tendencies of fraternities and what they represent and
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely enjoyed my time in my fraternity and keep in touch with a couple of the guys from there. Funnily not, you know, because I've changed so much. You know, I've changed so much in terms of who I am, what I believe in, and the things that I care about, like going
Hmm.
vegan, making a YouTube channel, abandoning everything. You know, so it's just
Hmm.
so different from a lot of what either they're up to or I've never heard this outright, but I suspect maybe some of them don't like the stuff that I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, could
But
be.
you know, I mean, you're gonna step on some toes. You know
It's
what I
gonna
mean?
happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You can't please everybody. I mean, having an opinion means that you're gonna have a different.
then someone
Someone else
else,
is
yeah,
gonna have a different one. Yeah. So you. Yeah, I think you should probably, just a little advice. I think you should try not to focus on that. Doesn't sound like you do though.
yeah. At one point, you're like, well, fuck it. I guess this is where we're going. You know what I mean? At a certain
Yeah.
point, the
No.
bandage is completely off, and
Yeah,
and
I
I
have
did.
seen people in our movement get kind of consumed by criticism and things like that, and it's just like unavoidable. Like
Yeah.
you could just you're just gonna die. You're gonna kill yourself fighting that all these little battles.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it a point to almost never reply to negative comments, or I almost
Hmm.
like even on sometimes I just don't even read them on Instagram. I usually read my YouTube comments because those are like
Hmm.
usually people who are always commenting, and so it's like a really nice community.
Yeah, and you're getting
Um,
feedback, like, it's probably important. Yeah, I was thinking about, I haven't even launched my channel yet. And I'm like, how am I going to deal? Because I'm going to touch on with some different people that
some
are
crazy
going to
stuff.
be controversial. And I'm like, my God, like the amount of like hate comments I can already imagine. That is, if anybody watches I'm not going to have the
Yeah.
hubris to assume that I'm going to have enough viewers.
Well, yeah, you'll
But
definitely get some if you got Natalie and did you say Justin? You talked to Justin too and James
yeah,
Aspie.
I talked to Justin and James
Yeah,
Aspie,
you'll
and I
definitely get
mean,
views with those names.
yeah, I should get some at least, but yeah, we'll see. But well, we've been going almost like close to 2 hours, but let's talk just a little, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, but
No, you're good.
your channel, oh, do you have a heart? I didn't even ask you. Do you need to be anywhere?
Nope,
Okay,
I'm good. But
cool.
actually, do you think we could take a quick break? I gotta run to the toilet,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
and then we
I will
can.
just do a monologue so that I don't have to edit, and I'll just talk.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, everybody, I'll be right back. Cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
See y'all soon.
So, okay. All right, so like while Danish is gone, maybe I can sort of give a little context of some of the things that we've been talking about because I'm trying to have a really authentic conversation with Danish, and I don't want to keep breaking in and say like, okay, here's what we're talking about with this, here's what we're talking about with that. So right at the beginning, we were talking about the video that he made about Ridgeland. So I can just describe what was happening at that time. Wayne Chung, Paul Darwin Picklesheimer, and Eva Hamer, three activists, were facing years in prison for rescuing beagles from a dog breeder in Wisconsin called Ridgeland Farms. I'm going to link to Danish's video down below, so you should watch it. He does a great explainer. But um, yeah, this is a dog breeder that sends dogs to laboratories. So a lot of people don't know that beagles are experimented on, and they're experimented on because they are docile creatures. They're really forgiving, and it's just this ultimate betrayal. And so we had this kind of theme going, beagle betrayal. And that's why I reached out to Danish. I said, "Hey, Danish, do you want to learn more about this?" And Danish just really like instantly, like I described, picked it up and ran with it and created this video, which was just we were so appreciated on the team. And I can hear myself feeding back a little bit, but that's okay. So that's one of the things. Okay, here's Danish. So I described the beagles, and what was I gonna ask? I was going. Oh yeah, yeah. Here's what I was gonna ask you about. So I just gave some context about the beagles
Okay,
while
cool.
you were gone, and then what I wanted to ask you about was the different sort of forms of activism that you do on your channel. And one thing that I noticed that you did was like when you're in Europe, you would go around on the street and say, I guess you had like $10 or $20, and you would say, hey, get these questions right, and I'll give you
Yeah.
money or something. So tell me a little bit about that and the idea for that, and and also if you could answer like, what of all the forms of the activism that you've done on your channel that you think have had the most impact?
Okay, cool question. All right. So the way that series started, and I haven't done it in a while. Well, actually, I have videos. I just haven't edited. I still have some videos in the tank from the last time I did that. But anyways, so it really started because I was in Spain, and my friend was like, "Dude, you got to do interviews. Like these are popping on TikTok and
Hmm.
Instagram, and short form." And so I thought, okay, cool. I guess I'll do some trivia, and I thought I had seen other people do like these like trivia things on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, and they seemed fun. And I was like, man, I can't give people $20 though, man. That's like so much money. I give like $1, $2, $3,
Yeah.
and then like I think the original question I had was I thought because I'd always get annoyed. I wouldn't get annoyed, but people are like, where do you get your protein from? So I thought, you know what? Why don't you tell me? Why don't you guess where I get my protein from, and I'll
Yeah.
pay you a
Yeah.
dollar. And so that was my first series of questions. Like for every vegan protein source, I'll give you a dollar. And another question I thought was, all right, for every what do vegans eat besides vegetables? Because I'm sick of hearing the lettuce and tomato things. You know what I mean? So I'm like, you know
Uh-huh.
what?
Uh-huh.
Okay, come on, use that noggin. I'll pay you money. I'll pay you money if you tell me some stuff that vegans eat that isn't lettuce and tomatoes. And so that's how it started. And then I started thinking about, wait, this is like a really cool way to get people engaged and like ask, inform people about things like random snippets, cut them for TikTok. And
Hmm.
because I was like, I can make a whole video about the environmental benefits where I do a sit in front and do a talking head, and how many views will that reach? Who knows? But I can do one of these TikTok things, and yeah, maybe they'll only hear one question. Maybe they'll only hear like whatever 77% of soy. I don't know, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But that's one. I've had videos reach like I had one video hit 500,000. Like that was
Yeah.
crazy, but you can reach a lot more people with this style of video. So I think that's how I kind of started, and it just made a lot of sense. Like it was popular format. It was popular format.
Right.
It is a way to educate people on topics that just a quick little hit, and
Hmm.
um, and they're pretty easy to make too. They're pretty easy to film. Though I always get nervous. Like I'm always out there. And I'm like, all right, time to film, because it is kind of nerve wracking. Like, hey, like you want to be in this video?
Hmm.
But I've only had one negative interaction ever, and it wasn't that negative. The guy just turned around and walked away. And he was like,
That's
"Oh,
kind
I'm
of
not."
funny.
Yeah, I was like asking about chickens because he like was first like, "Yeah, I definitely want to help you with your YouTube stuff." And I'm like, "All right, so like, how many chickens are killed in a year?" And he's like, "Man, I don't give a fuck about the chickens." And then he like turned around and walked
Oh
away.
shit.
And I was like, "Oh, all right, well."
That to me, that's almost a good video. I don't know, like when you do a
I
video
had no
like that, have
audio. I
you
messed up the audio, so
uh
I know I would have included it.
do do you have to ask people's permission like when you do activists like that, or can you just post?
I always ask for permission in the sense of
Yeah, yeah.
I don't ever, and I always find it kind of weird the videos where people walk up to someone on the street and they're like, hey, with the microphone. Like I imagine they must have talked to them beforehand and been like, hey, can we like, do you want to be in the video? I'll walk up to you and we'll make it seem like I'm just walking up to you, because it seems kind of
Right,
messed up to
right.
have like someone shove a microphone in your face and be like, yo, like you're on, we're recording you. So yeah, I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
I always say, hey,
yeah.
do you wanna? I always say, hey, like I'm filming a YouTube video. Do you want to be a part of it? And yes or no. So that's the consent,
Hmm.
right? They're just like yes or no, obviously. So and a lot of the
Right,
times, half the
right.
time, they're like, no, I'm not comfortable. I say, okay, that's cool. I
Yeah,
guess you're not making this money. Nah, but
right. Yeah, you're not gonna make that $1 or $2 because you
yeah,
can't
exactly.
fit
Well, they
in
never
make.
know too. But yeah, they're like they think it's more money. I'm always like, you want to make some money? And they're like, oh, and I'm like,
I
okay, $1.
and I haven't watched these videos in a while, but as I recall, like there were people really struggling to answer your question. Like
Some basic
they could
ones, yeah,
real basic. It's you've seen those Jimmy Kimmel videos where he's like asking people like
on the
basic
street,
questions on
yeah,
the street. Yeah, it's like that. Or
yeah,
yeah, it's hard because like the people end up kind of looking stupid, but you're like, man, these things like, and granted, I didn't know most of this stuff either, and like I'm ashamed because back in like a lot of this stuff is just really basic, like
yeah.
really like where do you, like what are some sources of protein? Like I don't know if I could have answered that before going vegan, honestly. or like why does a cow produce milk? That's kind of like a lot of people don't know those things.
I didn't know that.
Or
I for sure did not know that, which is embarrassing. But
all of us,
yeah.
I that is so common. We all didn't know that. It's so weird.
Or one question that I love throwing out is the which milk uses more water, like cow milk, almond milk, or soy
Um,
milk. And so I
mm,
was like, almond milk, of course. And it's like, well, actually, no, it's it's actually cow milk.
right, right.
And yeah, you throw up the graph, obviously the graph,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
yeah. So I think those are those, and it's just like stuff you hear all the time. You hear so much criticism of a lot of plant foods and very little criticism of, or at least, I don't know. When I was like before I was vegan, I definitely heard almonds were really water intensive or they're bad for the
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd heard. I feel like that was more. It's just hard now because I've been vegan for so long, so I feel like I'm a bit skewed. But yeah, I'm trying to think
Yeah.
about my pre-vegan days, and I didn't even know that. I feel like I didn't know beef was that bad.
Right, right,
Honestly, I feel
right.
like I just didn't know that.
Let's take the Ridgeland video out of the equation for this question because you might have like a biased answer for that one. But like of all your videos you made, like what's the one that you're most proud of?
Ooh, ooh. Gosh, I've just made so many different types of videos, so I'm trying to think
Hmm.
of.
Hmm.
There's one video that's coming out that I think is that it's a
Oh, I'm
secret.
getting a sneak peek on
No,
that
I
one.
won't tell you. I cannot tell you. It's secret. It's secret. But you'll know as soon as you see it. You'll be like, oh shit. You'll be like,
That's the one.
damn. Yeah, you'll know what it is when it comes out. But
Yeah.
and I think that one was just because of the hustle. Like I really hustled to make that one happen. But
Okay. Nice, nice.
and then and now everyone's gonna be like, wow, this guy was talking up that video. It wasn't even that good. No, but it was something that I was really really shocked that I was able to pull off, and I'm still really thankful that I was able to have it happen. But the proudest video, like, oh goodness, like there's just been a lot. Honestly, there's been a lot. Um,
Well,
I, here's what I'll do. I'll name some videos that come into my mind that I like really loved making.
yeah,
How's
yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Change it. You change the
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
cause like I love making the vegan camp out video that I made like last year,
Uh-huh.
where I just like
Uh,
filmed a bunch of food, and then editing the video was so fun, and just like capturing the essence of the vegan
yeah, and
festival and all the
you got
food.
to meet all these cool people, right? I think that was part of it too.
And that was, yeah, that was, I was really proud of that. Actually, yeah, that was a video that I was really proud of too. I got to interview a lot of vegans, activists that I loved and watched,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that was just like phenomenal. That was just like really honestly like I yeah, the vegan campout was one of like the best weekends of my life, to be honest, just because
Hmm.
a lot of things happened that weekend that like even the things that went wrong went right, and I got amazing videos out of it. Somebody recognized me for the like I somebody walked up to me and was like, "Are you that vocal vegan?" And I'm like, "This did not just happen. Holy shit!" Like what? And
And did
yeah,
you did your ego explode in that moment? You were like, "What? You want a photo, buddy?" You
the opposite. I was like shaking. I was like,
yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah.
But then and another video that I'm just always very very fond of is this one where I took my 10 room. I lived like 10 people in Madrid, and I took them all to a vegan restaurant, and I filmed this video where I interviewed them all before.
I remember.
And then we
Yeah,
went to eat the burgers, and then they were like, I got their reactions, and then afterwards I interviewed them. They're like, "How was it? Did you like it?" And they were all like, "Yeah, that was
yeah.
pretty good." And yeah, I think for some reason those are the videos that like really really stand out in my mind.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, and I'll tell you, like, I've pretty much mentioned the ones that were memorable to me, especially like yeah, the wedding one, the one where you had that cool sound effect that I thought was hilarious, and then yeah, I know you shouted out Joey's Pignorant video, and that got his attention. So you're also like you're
that
doing
was
a good job,
crazy.
like yeah, you're getting noticed by people with a lot of clout in the movement, which is really cool. So I hope that's validating for you because you're doing the good work and it should be getting noticed.
Thank
You
you.
know, yeah. So I mean, you're bringing a lot to the table. Like I said, you're adding like your own spin to it, which I really do think is difficult to do. I mean, we're all our own personalities and stuff. I've also noticed, yeah, I mean, you did that long form interview. I've noticed like here I am doing it. I'm like, not known, but like I've noticed a lot of activists are starting to do these more long form interviews. It's like kind of a renaissance of that kind of style thing. So I
Yeah,
think that'll be cool too, because we'll sort of get to know people better for who they are.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
I'm
that's
excited. I
important.
noticed that too. Yeah, I noticed that
Yeah.
too, and I thought it was really cool. Um, and
Are there
yeah,
any vegan activist, YouTube, whatever people that you think would be comfortable getting a shout out from you? That you think like don't get enough attention?
yes, I was literally on the before you even asked that. I was like, I have to shout out my boy Chip from Vegan Power Lab. I love him. I love the work that he puts out, and it's
Oh,
actually
nice, nice.
he was the one of the he invited me on his live stream, and it
Uh-huh.
was like the first time that I not the first live stream that I went on, but it was I don't know what it was about. It was the first time that I had this like setup, this like proper setup, and we just talked for like two
Yeah.
or three hours, and we engaged with his community, and and we got to know each other, and we just related on a lot of levels, and now we actually talk very frequently, and
Interesting. So you're the second person who, like Justin Debug Your Brain, also shouted out Vegan Power Lab.
yeah,
So I actually have not viewed their content. So what is it about Vegan Power Lab that's so unique and interesting?
I think for me, they're two. So honestly, I think it's because he does a lot of on the street outreach, like where he talks to people.
Hmm.
But I think it's just the way that he talks about veganism is a way that I relate with a lot, which is from a
Hmm.
left wing, progressive, social justice movement perspective. So for me,
Hmm.
like that really resonates with me. And
Hmm.
yeah, talking about all these different rights, like even you and I were talking about like trans rights, LGBT rights, Black Lives Matter, all these like social justice
Right.
movements, and coming at it from that angle. And so I think we're really aligned on basically like honestly, it feels like we're
Politically.
aligned on basically
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, so it just makes it
Hmm.
really easy to have
Hmm.
the conversation. And something that I like about Chip a lot too is that he experiments a lot as well with the type of content that he's making. So one of the videos he just made that I loved, he made this reaction to do you know Jubilee? It's a YouTube
It's
channel.
oh no, no, then I don't know. What is
So
Jubilee?
it's just this like YouTube channel that is pretty. I don't know. It's they make random content. They have a bunch of different games that they do, and they've have a weird overlap with veganism because I think
Uh-huh.
like their first couple of videos that they made were about veganism. But like about veganism, it was like six people gather around in a room, and they have to identify, and they have like an hour to find out who is not vegan amongst them, like six vegans
Oh,
versus one not vegan.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Okay, so they do, and they've done videos like that. And Chip react, and
Mhm.
I literally remembered, I literally remember that I watched one of those. I think before I even watched the Game
Mhm.
Changers, but within a few days, because I remember I was in the exact same
Mhm.
apartment. I remember watching them specifically. But anyways, so he did a reaction video to that, and I was laughing my ass off while he was
Hmm.
reacting to the video,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
just
yeah.
loved it because you know. Sometimes like when I watch like I honestly don't even watch that much vegan content nowadays on YouTube because I
Mhm.
mean it's just a lot of the stuff that I've heard before like it's like yeah
Sure.
like
Yeah.
circle of life like nature though whatever crop deaths
Mhm.
though blah
Mhm.
blah blah and it's like okay but what's going to be new out of this one versus this was a video where I was like I just laughed and it was 30 minutes and I laughed the whole time and it was funny because I didn't know what Chip was going to say. I didn't know how he was going to react and he wasn't going to it wasn't about like crop deaths though. It was just about him being like, "Oh, these guys are ridiculous. Like I can't believe he said that. Like, oh, this guy like just gave himself away." And it was just a
Yeah.
fun way. It was just like a vegan watching a video and Chip's just a funny
Mhm.
guy and
Mhm.
very authentic and
Totally.
genuine. And so I loved that. And I literally texted him, I'm like, "Dude, I've been wanting to do that." So I think I'm going to
Mhm.
make a similar video to reacting to some of them as well. And yeah, so that's what I really like about Chip. I have a
Yeah.
lot of yeah. I don't have anything but good things to say about him.
Well,
So
I think I like the point you're making about the kind of reaction videos where like I'm the same way. Like I've seen so much like if there's a new vegan debate coming out, it's not really of interest to me anymore because, like you said, it's going to hit all the same points that I already know.
Yeah, I've already seen the video,
But
man. I've already seen it.
but, but let me tell you, when if vegan gays or vegan games or somebody is reacting to it, I'm watching because I love. It's like you feel like you're
That's
in the
funny.
room with your
Yeah,
buddy. Yeah,
yeah,
and they're gonna
yeah.
like give you that cathartic moment. I should not even say this, but I just think it's funny to mention that I'm a co-produce, like I'm co-producing a YouTube channel for Wayne. So we started that channel launched the other day,
Oh,
and it started
congrats.
out. Oh, thank you. Well, and bigger congrats to Wayne. Obviously, he's done like the bulk of the work, but it starts with a big long story that it's just Wayne in front of the camera telling his story. And I confess that I hadn't actually even watched the video because I'm with Wayne for so many interviews. I know his story front and back. So I had not even watched that video, but Richard, Vegan Gains, said to me, "I'll stream that." When I told him like when our interview is going to air, and so then I watched when Vegan Games
Yeah.
was watched. So that's when I saw Wayne's video for the first time. Was after it had already been published. I'm sorry, Wayne. I didn't. I needed.
But that's so interesting to hear. Yeah, exactly. Like I'll watch people's reactions because exactly, it's just
Yeah,
so funny how yeah, it's like watching with your buddy and like, oh my god.
yeah, yeah. I kind of need that. I need that to like get through some of this content, and also like some of the content is just fucking annoying. Like when it's like when you're hearing the same excuse over and over again, you want to be like, why won't they just get it?
Yeah,
Some like to put it mildly, but you want some vegan buddy there sitting with you to also say
just a dunk
that.
on them. Yeah, you're like, oh my
Yeah, you got
god.
to dunk. Yeah, just to dunk on.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
All right.
So yeah, but so Chip, yeah, my answer for that is definitely Chip. And I just yeah, and I think I mean, he seems to be growing fast, honestly, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was
Hmm.
all over your front page in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Well,
no,
I
but I
mean,
think he's gonna grow quickly though. I'm honest though. I do think so.
I do too, just because like several people now have shouted him out, and there are people who are paying a lot of attention, like you and Justin, and so yeah, there must be something there, and yeah, my curiosity has peaked. So, well, we've hit the 2 hour mark, and I feel like it's not a lot of people. Probably, even though I'm enjoying the conversation, probably a lot of people are like, "Shit, I gotta cook dinner already" or
Yeah.
something.
Comment if you're still
So
here. Nah, I'm just playing.
yeah, comment. So yeah, yeah. Let us know in the comments if you hit the 2 hour and 1 minute mark. That'd
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
badass.
Leave a broccoli emoji so we know it's true.
Yeah, leave a broccoli emoji. So well, but I do just want to say before we sign off, is there anything that I didn't hit that you think we should have, or anything you want to announce, any goals for your channel or anything? I know you've got a secret video, a big secret video that you won't tell
Yeah.
me about, but what else you got?
Well, I'll just wrap up like my little story that I was telling about the university real quick, and I
Hmm.
think basically you just like yeah close the loop there. But ultimately, what ended up happening was after like rejecting corporations and rejecting what I had held so intrinsically to be true, I think
Hmm.
that really opened my eyes to a new way of thinking and that also coincided with COVID and having a lot of time at home, seeing the US healthcare system fall apart,
Hmm.
seeing corporations like whether it be lay people off, like yeah, a lot of people getting laid off, just feeling like a lot of things weren't making sense. A lot of things that I really, really believed in weren't making sense anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that triggered me to decide to become a vegan active. Or I guess, sorry, better said, a lot of that kind of triggered me to start thinking in different ways. And I think that's what helped me accept veganism too and think a lot more critically about a lot of things that I had taken for granted. And then to
Hmm.
become an activist, it really just came to the point where I had been spending so much of my time working on something that I didn't care about and realizing, man, I'm talking about veganism all the time. I want to reach as many people as I can about veganism. Like this is something that really matters. I really, really want to make a difference in this. Like I really want to make a difference, and
Hmm.
there's no way to say this without coming off a bit like I don't know. I feel like I'm going to sound pretentious saying this, but like I was really lucky to make money in the jobs that I was making. Like I had made these, I'd gotten to like that. I wanted to make the money. I wanted those prestigious job offers, and I had made it, and I was still not feeling fulfilled or happy with what I
Yeah, yeah.
was doing. And so I decided, you know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm really, really gonna try this, and I'm gonna use this money.
Hmm.
So right now I live off of my like savings and investments that I've created for myself, and I'm really lucky and thankful to be going to be doing this. And it's not always like sunshines and rainbows. I always say like there's always a
Hmm.
lot of self doubt. A lot of am I doing the right thing? Have I been investing my time correctly? Have I been using like have I has my strategy for growth been the right one? So yeah, and I know, and I mentioned this in a previous video, and so like one of the biggest things for me too is always just thinking about how can I create like sustainable, I guess like business, how can I create a way that I can sustain myself making vegan content
Yeah. Hmm.
and pay the bills. So I think
Hmm.
that's probably like the biggest thing. And I think that's what most vegan activists would really like. How can I continue to like how can I subsist off of the content that I make?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so yeah, so that's my main focus
Mhm.
for the near future.
Well, it's
And
good. So it sounds like you kind of built up a nice like kind of savings with the previous job. So you've got some time to hopefully build up your channel and hopefully make it to where it's making enough money that you can keep doing it. Or maybe, people will go on Patreon or something and support you that way too, if they
yeah,
value your content.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's a good chance we should say, like we should mention where your channel is. It's Danish, right? It's
Yes,
right here on the bottom of the screen. And yeah, they should also follow you on Instagram and social media.
find me on
You're
Instagram.
It's
Yep.
Danish on
Yes,
Instagram.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, I
yes.
think that's important too. Like a lot of social media is like really important. But yeah, I hope you're all also able to do that because you're clearly like one of the rising stars in our movement, I would say. So I
Wow,
mean,
thank you,
yeah, I mean, and I don't
thank
say
you.
that just to give people like ego trips or anything, but I think you're making really smart content and it's
Damn, thank
encouraging
you.
to see.
Seriously,
Yeah, and again, we were really appreciative with the boost that you gave us. That was amazing. I mean, it was unexpected and just really incredible.
thank you so
And
much. I'm
so,
thank you,
like, yeah. So, all right. Well, folks, you should go and follow Daynesh.
thank you.
Put a little broccoli and put a cauliflower or something so that we know that you made it all the way to the end.
Exactly.
And support this guy because he's doing great work. So, Danish, we'll talk again. We should keep this going because this is
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And yeah, we'll talk soon. And good luck on your channel. And thanks everybody for watching.
All right, appreciate you.